Hi guys, I'm getting that. YouTube is telling me that the stream is bad and that you guys may end up with buffering. I apologize for that. I'm really not even sure how to fix that. So, sorry. Hopefully it won't be too bad. Let me make sure audio is here.
Hi guys.
There we go. Mute that. And we are good. Wow, two of you guys, or not two, one's from Germany and Georgia, not the same place at all. Got one of you guys are here from San Antonio. I hope your weather is as nice as it is in North Texas today. Let me pop that chat out so I can see your comments more easily. So you guys should, if you're going to follow along with me, you should have already had this drawn out. I used a 4H pencil. It doesn't really matter what brand of pencil. I just want it to be light. 4H or 6H is usually what I'm going to use when I draw out whatever my subject is. It's kind of funny looking at the way that I've got this positioned. I have mine really low. If I were to frame this or sell this, I would definitely chop off the amount I've got on the top, which is partially chopped off on your video, but it's definitely, when you're coming up with your design, think a little bit more than I did about this one, about your placement. So here, for an ideal placement, I would probably put mine up here, or I can keep it a little bit lower, but it would have to be off to the side. I don't typically, if I'm trying to create a piece of artwork that I really want to be super proud of, want to display it or sell it, I want to think a little bit more about what my composition is than what I've done here. Here, I just smacked it straight in the middle, so we could do the demonstration. But for you guys, when you are coming up with a design, when you're coming up with something that you do plan to sell, do think a little bit more. The rule of thirds is a really good thing to be aware of. And what that is, if you're unfamiliar with, if you were to chop three sections evenly across this way, three this way, those points where those lines connect, those are, I call them hot spots, where you kind of want to center, or not center, but move your subject more to one of those connecting lines. And it's not that you always have to do that, because sometimes it's better if you don't, but more often than not, your work is going to look better if you've got that lined up nicely. So let's go ahead and get started. The paper that I'm working on today is the Canson Mi-Teintes. This is in the light blue. So I'm not going to be doing anything with the background. I'm really just going to focus on the flower. Now, one of the challenges with this flower is that the colors are bright purples and pinks, and they're not colors we really have in colored pencil. So we can go for close, but it's not going to be exact. Not as much as if we were using maybe watercolor pencil or the like acrylics, oils. It's much easier to get these super vivid colors. Here, I've got two things going against me in trying to get this very, very bright. One, I'm working on toned paper. So my brights are not going to be as bright as they would if I were up against white. The other is just the nature of purples, pinks, trying to get that hot pink color. Most pencils, at least if they're light fast, not going to be that quite that bright. So what I'm going to do to make up for that is really focus on my contrast. Make sure that my darks are super dark so that the lights appear much brighter. So the colors, I haven't even pulled these out. The main colors I'm going to start with are going to be my polychromos, probably. Let's see. I'm going to use my, and you do not have to use the same colors as me at all. The thing that you want to focus on are getting your darks dark enough and your lights light enough. That is more important than anything else. So if you want an orange flower, whatever you want, go with. So I'm going to be using my red violet, which is a color I use a lot. I'm not even, I think I've already pulled my non-light fast colors out of this, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. I'm going to use pink carmine, and I'll try as I'm working to let you know which pencil I'm grabbing for. Let's see, I'm definitely going to need some oranges in there. So let's pull, I pulled three out. I don't know, I just grabbed three orange colors. I'm not sure which I'm going to go with there. I'm not going to worry about the stem just yet. I'm just going to worry about the petals. I'm going to want, let's see, definitely going to need some purples. And I do like, Polychromos has a really good set of these colors. So compared to like my Carandash, as much as I love them, their bright colors aren't that bright. They tend to be a little bit more muted. So reaching for my Polychromos is definitely going to be the way to go for the majority of this. I'm going to need some blue. Grab some of those. I pretty much pulled out most of my purple. And let's see, blue colors. I'm going to want a cool blue, so let's go with the sky blue, which is kind of it's closer to purple on the color wheel than it is to green. So that's where that is going to be a cool blue. I might end up using some warmer blue too. So I'm also going to pull out my light cobalt turquoise. And I definitely am going to use black. Ooh, I'm probably going to use this too. My red, how do you even say that? India something red blue. Repeat that. And my black and white for sure, although I probably won't use the polychromos white too much. And yeah, that should be a good start. Ooh, this color looks like it might be good too. My deep red. I'll pull that too. Okay. So your first layers, they're not going to look amazing. That's okay. They're going to look a little bit more like crayon, a lot more rough. Now this paper, it's got more tooth to it than the Fabriano Artistico. In part though, that's kind of a nice thing. I really do like the Canson Mi-Teintes paper. I'm using the smooth side. They have one side that's a bit rougher, so it's really good for pastels. The smooth side works beautifully for colored pencil, and having that little bit of extra tooth, it's not so much that your blending isn't going to be smooth, but it's enough that the pigment really sticks, so you can get pigment down very quickly. You know, another pencil. Let me check. I don't think there were very many good light fast colors in my Pro Color set. Oh, these are the light fast ones. Yeah. I separated my Pro Colors, the Derwent Pro Colors. I've got a tray of light fast and then the tray of non-light fast. And it's actually too bad because some of the colors in the non-light fast, they actually do have some bright pinks that would work well for this. But because they're not light fast, I'm not even going to mess with those. And it doesn't look like of the Derwent Pro Color. I may try the black and the white. I'll go ahead and pull that from that set. Their Heather is a pretty color. We'll pull that too. I may end up using that quite a bit. I believe that's light fast unless I put it in the wrong section, which is possible. I also am going to use a Derwent Drawing Chinese White. So let's pull that. Okay, I think we can get started. So I'm going to start with this petal in the back. This one has my darkest darks right in through here. If I can lay those down first or get those in early on in the piece, it's going to make judging the values for the rest of this so much easier. So whenever I'm working in colored pencil, whether it be a portrait, just about anything, I pretty much always like to go with, let's move this over, I don't want to need to watch myself. I pretty much want to get my darkest values laid down first, or at least in a few areas. So let's say I'm drawing a macaw. I very often will start with the eye and the beak because that beak has the darkest values. That's going to make it easier for me to judge the rest of the values on the feathers. And more often than not, I do that. Portraits, I usually start with the hair because a lot of my darker values are going to be in the hair. So it just makes it so much easier to judge. Nick Edgar asked if this paper is absorbent. Yeah, pretty much. The paint thinner soaks way into it. It's kind of like Stonehenge in that, or Spongehenge, as Alan Willett puts it. If you guys don't follow Alan Willett, you should. He's hilarious. But he's a colored pencil artist who does amazing birds. But he calls Stonehenge Spongehenge, and it is a good description. He dislikes it. I still like it. It's just a difference in the paper. Brittany said that Pablo actually has some pretty good light fast pinks and purples. I will look into that. Actually, I need to get a full set of Pablos anyway. The ones that I have, the only thing that I've really liked Pablos for, they work really well for powder blender. They don't work great for the techniques and how I normally layer, but they actually, I bet with this paper having a little bit more tooth would be wonderful. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to take my black and go ahead and lightly put in where my darkest shadows are. I'm not going to burnish. I'm not going to push hard. I'm going to keep a very light hand with this. Stacy says, hi from Lancaster, California. I'm from Southern California. I'm from Claremont and Rancho Cucamonga, so like San Bernardino area. So I actually know where your area. So not pushing hard. My pencil isn't super sharp. I actually should fix that. Let's see. This would be a good stage to have a sharper pencil. This one, I'm using my Coom long pointed sharpener, honestly, because it's what I happen to just grab, not because it's like the must-use sharpener for this. Empty this. The sharpener I've been using lately, I'm missing the top half too. I think it's over, I don't know. Last night I knocked it off the table and it went flying and I lost a piece. I think it's somewhere over there. What do I think of working on suede matte board? You know, I never have, so I don't really have an opinion one way or another for you. I need to, though. So the Coom long pointed sharpener, it's two parts. You sharpen the one side, and then you get the fine point over on the other. That's what I'm doing now, and I think my blades are a little dull on this. It's probably time for me to change them. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go through here. Now, I do recommend keep something under your hand. I'm being lazy because I don't really care too much what this one comes out like other than for the tutorial purpose. So it's not something I'm planning on selling or anything like that, but it's not a good habit to be resting your hand right on the paper if you've got any oil on your hand, or that can damage, cause some issues. Just keep something under. Plus, you may end up smudging color. So glassine is a good thing. That's what I recommend to keep under your hand. But if you don't have glassine, you can use a piece of tracing paper. I used that for years. Anything, just some piece of paper should be under your hand. So we've got a line kind of comes up here. And again, not pushing very hard. I don't want to damage the tooth of this paper, and I'm going to put a lot of colors on top of this. I'm not going to leave the black straight black. This is going to make the purples that I put on top much darker. Mostly little ovals I'm working that pencil in. You can already see it has that bit of a, oh, this is bad quality, isn't it? I apologize for that video. I'm not sure what exactly is causing that. But one of the things that you're seeing here, it starts to look a little bit like crayon. Let me see if, I want to make sure you guys are seeing this a little. No, that actually looks pretty terrible. Yeah, this video quality today is terrible. I apologize for that. I'm not even sure what to do about that. Actually, let's record this too, just in case I end up uploading this better quality for you guys later. Now, there's a light area here with the purple where it's not super dark, so I don't want to take the black all the way in through there. Let me know, does this look as sketchy and the quality is bad for you guys as it is for me? Because if it is, I actually can try changing some of the settings. I may have something on here that I can adjust. I'm not sure if it's just that my video. Looks like I can't adjust that. It's a bit fuzzy. Yeah, it shouldn't be fuzzy at all. I may restart this and start the whole live stream over again. I need to fix this because this should be better, much better quality for you guys. I don't want this, ow. And I don't think it's going to let me change it. Maybe it will. Let's see. Yeah, video output is terrible. 720 by 480. I would get better with my webcam. I may just switch to my webcam for today and then figure out what's going on. This looks really bad. Like way worse than it would, and this is with my good camera, so it shouldn't be doing this for you guys. I'm going to unplug this, and it may be bad. If it's bad, I will link you guys. If I have to change the link and start over, I'll let you guys know what that is. But I definitely want to fix this before we get going too far because this should not look this poorly. So let's mess around with stuff and look this poorly. I don't think that's grammatically correct. I'm going to unplug. You may regret this. Let's see. HDMI output. Can you guys still hear me or see me? Let's see if this, okay, menu. So I fixed one thing that I changed earlier. Let me see if I can fix one more. We are going to experiment until I figure out how to give you guys much better. Let's see if that makes a difference. See, on my end, it looks good until I see what it's going through on YouTube. It's so like yeah, that's kind of laggy here too. Let's see if this is any better. I apologize for the delay here. I just want to make sure. It's still a little bit fuzzy, isn't it? And laggy. I'm going to try one more thing, and if this doesn't work, we'll switch over to my other cam. And yeah, it's funny. Dan says, Lisa the Perfectionist. No, it's just, this looks really bad, and it's going to be hard for you to see what I'm doing if it keeps whatever it's doing causing this. It should look far better. I may have to do a bit more research in using this camera for this. Let's see what this looks like. I used this camera on Wednesday's live stream, but I think that it was exporting really, really low. So let's see. Come on, pick up. Okay. Give it just a second. I want to see if this is lagging too. Come on, catch up. There's always a long delay. You know what? Switching webcams. 1 second. We are not doing this today. This should be easy enough to set up if I can find where my other webcam is. There we go. This should look better. We will go ahead and unplug you because you're not playing nicely with me today. And luckily this guy is all already set up with the adapter, so that should not take me long to get this going now. Ooh, I am missing one thing. Oh, here it is. And where is this going to? I will definitely need to be doing, or to do some research and figure out why that wasn't, whoops, wrong thing, why that isn't working the way it should. I'm sure it's an easy issue to fix. I just don't know what it is right now, and I don't want to waste your time any more than I already have. Let's plug that in. She knows. Okay, let's see it. Let me get this connected. It'll take just a second. Come on, hook up. There we go. Okay. This should end up looking much better. And I think what I'm going to do is sync this with the audio from, I'll see if I can download the audio separately and make this work a bit better, or upload it separately for Patreon, so the quality might be a bit improved. We'll find. I'm going to mess with stuff later, but let's see. Let me configure the video really quick. Brightness looks okay. Contrast, saturation usually needs to go up just a bit. Okay, I might have to mess with that a little bit later on, but I think that we are good for now. Oh, we don't want autofocus. Okay. Sorry about that delay. That was just looking absolutely terrible, and I suspect that is probably why I was getting the lag. Let's see if this is any better. I'm gonna wait for YouTube to catch up to what I'm actually doing. Let's see. It still seems to have a bit of a delay, but I think that this will be better. And again, I apologize because I'm trying to get this set up so that you'll get better quality, but that was definitely not better quality. Okay, back to work. Sorry about that. Thanks for hanging on there with me. Okay, so back with, where was my black pencil? I think that's what was in my hand. Okay, yeah, that definitely is better. It's, the thing that I don't like about the webcam is it smooths things out just a bit. Let me see if I can sharpen that at all. Come on. Sharpness. I don't know if that'll help, but we'll see if it sharpens it. It always feels like it's not quite as sharp as it should be, but we're going with it. Okay, I'm going to record this too. So back to filling in, just using a light hand. Now, if this isn't dark enough, if I want it to go darker, I don't want to get it darker by pushing harder. What I do then is burnish, and I flatten the tooth of the paper, which limits how many layers I can put on later on. Definitely don't want to do that. If I want to get more rich, true color, it would be better. See how I'm just going back over the same areas that I already did? This is how I'm going to make it darker, not by pushing harder. Now, there are times when I get towards the end where I will start pushing harder with my pencil, but this is not that time. Can I zoom in more? Let me see. I should be able to. There we go. Okay. So again, just going to go back over a lot of this, and I'll put the purples right on top of this black, but I want to get enough of that pigment on the paper first. This guy will have a shadow over here. Just going to block in some of these lights and darks. I'm not going to worry too much about the other petals just yet. Now, one benefit, well, there's a lot of benefits, but a huge benefit to working one petal at a time is when I blend with odorless mineral spirits, this will have time to dry while I work on another area, so I don't have to sit there and wait for everything to dry all at once. Okay, let's go ahead and start putting some of these purples in. I'm actually going to put red first, and I don't think I have a red pulled out that is quite what I want. Let me see if I've got a good... Now, it's really easy to get hung up, especially with the colored pencils where you've got, I mean, I've had hundreds of colors, being that I have several sets. It would be very easy to get caught up on, I have to find the one perfect color. Experiment. It doesn't need to be the right color. It needs to be the right value, how light or dark your darks and lights are, but that's what you want to focus on. Don't get too hung up on everything has to be the right exact color. Ooh, this is actually a nice, that might be too dark. Let's pull a couple of colors. Ooh. Good luminance color here. What is this one? I can't read that. Purplish red. I hate that about luminance. You can't read anything on these easily. We'll grab those too because I actually think these might be a better tone than some of my polychromos for this. I'm going to put him down first. So let me sharpen this guy really quick. Wyverna said, I don't have OMS. Is it possible to do the same thing without? You're going to do more layering than I am. Make sure your pencils are extra, extra, extra sharp. If you're not going to use OMS, because you'll see what happens when I use it the way that I blend. Your blending is going to be different. The layering would be very similar, but make sure those pencils are super, super sharp, and it's going to take you longer than it will me, but it can be done. So this is a nice, geez, this is a bright, nice pink. I didn't realize I had that color in luminance, which is great because that's going to be light fast. I don't have to worry about that. And that is a really good color for this flower. I really like this. I'm going to be able to take this right on top of the black as well. When it gets to the darker blacks, I'll switch to purple. But I'm going to overlap this a bit into the black. Again, not pushing too hard. It should look like crayon at this point. Don't let that scare you. And when I say crayon, what I mean is you're seeing the blue of the paper, or if you're using white paper, you're seeing the white of the paper show through. And that is very, very normal. When we add the odorless mineral spirits, or if you're not using odorless mineral spirits, if you just add a lot of layers, you will build up to that. But again, if you're not using odorless mineral spirits, it's much more important for you that your pencil be really, really sharp. Okay, so let's go ahead and throw some, I want to get more pigment on here before I blend, and then I'll throw some purple, and then we can blend this petal and let it dry. This purple looks, I don't know which purple I want to go with here. Let's go with the, I'm going to use the mauve. Guess I should sharpen it first. I have on the floor the School Pro sharpener, the X-Acto. My first one was really good, and then as the blades got dull, I ended up with two because Amazon screwed something up. So I figured, oh, I'll just use the new one. The new one, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with the blades, and it's causing a lot of problems with my pencil, so I'm back to just hand sharpening everything. Yeah, this purple's really nice. But see, as I layer here, I'm losing a lot of that crayon look. I start to fill in more of those little gaps. I'm gonna lap that a bit into that lighter magenta color. I'm going to have a really definite harsh line here. So I'm going to push a little bit harder, define that edge more. And then I'll have the magenta up on top here. Let's add some more of the magenta, get a lot of pigment on there. If you don't have enough pigment on your paper, when you blend with odorless mineral spirits, it doesn't do much. You really need enough pigment. But again, using a light hand, I do not want to push hard. I'm going to take that purple up a bit more over the black. And I will have to repeat this process several times before I get my pigment to be quite as dark as I want it to. Okay, let's go ahead and blend that out now. So for me, with my odorless mineral spirits, I keep that in a little, like it's almost like a little Tupperware jar. This one is called a lock-and-lock. It's got a seal, a rubber seal, so it seals it off really nicely. Now, even though this is in a good sealed container, I still want to make sure, I just spilled it all over my hands, I still want to make sure that it stays upright. Like if you're traveling, don't let it go sideways or upside down. I swear, the paint thinner will leak out of anything. So I always want to keep that upright. I'm just going to use, this one is a Taklon Bristled Low Cornell Filbert. Any generic, you don't have to go with a name brand. This is just the one that I've been using for years, but any generic Taklon Bristled brush will work fine for you. Oh, sorry, Lee. I think I must have missed whatever the question was. Okay, so I've got a little bit of pigment on, or paint thinner on there. Oh, apparently too much. Let me grab a paper towel. That is more paint thinner than what I want. And because this paper is so absorbent, that paint thinner just soaks in and it's going to take that much longer to dry. Now look how dark this looks where I've put the paint thinner. It's not going to be that dark when it dries. It'll lighten right back up. I'm going to try to keep my edges nice and clean. You can switch to a smaller paintbrush if that's easier. Do not want fuzzy edges. I also want to not use too much paint thinner because I don't want to color my background. If I use too much paint thinner, I can get greasy oil stains on the blue of the paper, which I do not want. I need a smaller brush. 1 second. Yeah, you should work. Just because my edges are not being kept clean enough. See here, I've got to be careful. I'm going outside of there a bit. That may leave a bit of an oil mark. So when you're leaving the white, I don't notice it really on Fabriano Artistico, but definitely on Stonehenge, you can really see I guess it's because it absorbs so much, but it really leaves a stain. If you're going to color everything with colored pencil, then that stain doesn't matter. You won't see it at all. But if you're leaving the paper white, then that shows. Now see, because I have so many layers of pencil, this blended beautifully. Look at how deep and rich it is, but that's going to lighten up a lot as it dries. It's not going to stay quite that dark, but it will be blended nicely. So what I'm doing is, we had Patreon and YouTube going at the same time. I could see where that would cause problems. But while you're doing this, just be aware that is going to lighten up. You'll see that as I work on to the next flower. Wyverna said, when you do this, does the pigment move around from where you've put it down? A little bit. Not as much as like if I were using powder blender, that will smudge all over, or pastels, it'll smudge all over. This, or even with like Inktense, that will really, when you add water, it'll move everything all over, watercolor pencils. With this, it smudges a bit, but not like those mediums do. So you still have to be careful not to overdo it if you don't want something smudging. Now, another thing, I don't recommend using a hairdryer, and I've seen people do that, where they'll use a hairdryer to speed the process along. Paint thinner is flammable. I don't want it to get too hot. So I do not recommend it. I just let it air dry. And then when I'm not using the paint thinner, I always put the lid back on my little container, because even though you can't smell it, it is still toxic. So you don't want to be breathing that in. You want to do that as little as possible. So I always put the lid back on when I'm not currently using it. 1 second. Let me make sure this is somebody commenting on Patreon. Let me make sure it's not something I need to respond to them right now. Where's the live stream comments for Lisa? I can never find comments. If you are watching it, it depends on which device you're using it on. I'm using it on a laptop and the comments are off to the side. If you're using it on a phone, I think if you switched it sideways, they may show up. I'm not sure. YouTube's weird, but you would need to watch the comments. If you want to see the comments, you'll need to be take that link to YouTube. I won't see the comments over on Patreon itself. I mean, other than right now, just because I got the email, but let me see. Oh, hold on. Same question. Let me double check. Okay, she said you're not seeing the comments on YouTube or Patreon. If one of you guys knows, if you can comment, I'll let her know. But the comments on a laptop or on a desktop are off to the right of whatever the video is. I know it's different on a mobile device, but I don't watch it that way, so I can't help you there. I apologize for that. Let's go ahead and go on to, while that dries, I'm going to move on to the next petal. So again, this one has a lot of black, so I'll just lay that down first. That pencil is still pretty sharp. We've got a dark shadow in through here. I'm going to do a little bit with the black. Not going to go too heavy there. Now I'll go ahead and do this petal along with it. This one has a nice dark area here. Now, one of the great things, if you are new to any medium, flowers are such a good thing to get started with. I think that they're very forgiving. If I have a flower petal in the wrong spot, it's no big deal. But if I have a nose on a person, or if I'm drawing an animal and the ear's in the wrong spot, people are going to notice that. So with flowers, they're very forgiving for you to get the feel of blending and moving the pencil around, but you still feel excited because your end result is still pretty, even if it's not even drawn right. So I think it takes a lot of the pressure off when you're working on florals to start with, or like an apple, just anything that gets you started with blending and layering. Okay. Let's see. My pencils are all over the place and now I can't find anything. There we go. There's the one that I wanted. So this guy actually has a really bright pink area back here. And then it's going to move to a lighter lavender. Let's actually use the Derwent Pro color for that. See if that... Geez, that doesn't show up. That's really pale. That actually probably will work to my benefit, though. As light as that is, I'll put darker colors on top, but I think that's going to be a good one. This is the Heather color by Derwent Pro color. And then we've got a really pale purple. I don't think I have that color pulled out. And I'm actually pretty sure that Luminance has a good purple for that. Yeah. We'll switch to my Luminance. This one is the Ultramarine Violet. If you can't tell, and I really want to stress this all the time, I want you guys not to, or to just realize how unimportant getting the right color is. Get the right value, the right light or darkness. As I'm grabbing pencils, I'm like, let's try this one. You can see, I don't care. Whatever, as long as your darks are dark enough, your lights are light enough. Yeah, Nick Edgar said, wow, that paper really does drink in the OMS. Yeah, this one is even more sponge-worthy of a title than Stonehenge. I mean, it really sucks up that. And so it's going to take a lot longer. Ooh, this one's actually a perfect color for this. This one is my Manganese Violet. All of these colors are going to be a bit muted. you have to add a lot of layers. A big mistake that people make when they're starting with colored pencil and they're not sure why their work doesn't look how they want it to, it's usually because they're not doing enough layering. They're calling it finished too soon. It's like, okay, color is in this space, so that space is done. It's not about just having the right color. It's about having the right, get the saturation there. Maureen said for the chatting on her Samsung, at the bottom of her screen, it says top chat. If you click on it, it opens a chat under the stream. I hope that helps. Thank you, Maureen. One of these days, I think I'm going to need to watch somebody's live stream on my phone. I usually watch them on my computer. I need to watch on my phone so I can know a bit more about that myself. Okay. Let's go ahead and get that really, I'm surprised at how much I'm using, I want to sharpen this one a bit more. I'm surprised at how much I'm using my luminance because these usually tend to be a bit more dull for most of the colors, but there's apparently some nice pinks and purples I forgot about. And what I'm doing, I'm looking at this as an abstract shape. I'm not sitting there going, this looks like a flower petal, because it doesn't at all look like a flower petal to me. And I'm just looking at where my lights go, where my darks go, what colors, shapes. That's all that I'm paying attention to. If you get too worked up on, I'm drawing a flower, this needs to look like a flower, the end result won't look as realistic. You want to really focus on the shapes that you're seeing on your reference photo. And I'm working the pencil. It's not straight back and forth lines. It's ovals. It's rounding those edges so I don't have harsh start and stop points. Because those harsh stop and start points, even if you're using OMS, can be hard to get rid of. So working it more in an oval or a circle will soften those edges up. We're getting some nice pigment in there. And this is the thing that I like so much about the Canson Mi-Teintes paper is the pigment sticks so much. Like I'm right away able to blend out much faster than I typically would. Wow, that plane is loud. Right, much faster than I would if I were using like Fabriano. Got a dark area here. Oops. My monitor went to sleep. There we go. My reference photo left me. Okay, let's see. I still want to darken this up. I'm actually going to take some red. I'm going to use, back to my Karen Josh red. This one is the Crimson, I can never say this, Alizarin hue. And I'm going to put this on top of the back of this petal. Any red will do. I mean, a cooler red I think is more ideal, but you could honestly still make this look good, whether it's a warm or cool red. And if you're having a hard time deciding, is it warm or cool? It's how close something is to, like in this case, if it's closer to orange or yellow in the color wheel with the red, that I would consider a warm red. If it's closer to purple and magenta, that's going to be your cooler red. I'm going to pull that in here a bit. I'm going to take some blue. I want more of a purplish blue. So I will use my Delft. That's, I can't read. Blue, which is kind of a deeper bluish purple. Not even using the Coom long pointed sharpener. I'm just using this little cheapy one now, which is working fine. And I'm going to put this a little bit over the black here. I'm going to pull that around the edge too, and I'll have to come back and clean that edge up even more later on, but I want a bit of a shadow that fades into the red. I'll put a little bit here too. And then I'm going to pull that down into where the black is. Still, don't push too hard. It's really tempting once you get a lot of layers on there. You want to start pushing harder to make it come out darker. Don't do that. That's going to damage your paper. And then you're not going to get as many layers later on. Okay, let's go ahead and blend that out. Let's see, I think I pulled up a small, yeah, we'll use a smaller brush for blending here. Usually don't really like this one. My friend said, I have no idea what I'm doing right now. Hey, that's the way to art. It's all experimentation. I think it's very deceiving because, I mean, not deceiving. It's not like we're trying to lie to you. But artists who have been doing this for a long time, you guys tend to think that if an artist has done, you know, been painting for many, many years, that we automatically know everything we're doing. I'm experimenting too. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just throwing color on there and explaining to you what I'm doing and why I'm doing it as I make different choices. But I don't think anyone ever fully knows or feels like you always know what you're doing. The feeling you're getting now, that is going to last the rest of your career. Just throw on some color. Experiment. I'm always experimenting. When you hit a point where you think you know all of the things about whatever it is you're doing, I don't think you stop learning, you stop progressing. So I think the feeling of, I don't know what I'm doing, is a good thing, as long as you keep painting through that. Let's see. Now you have to be careful when you blend. I don't want to go for my black and then up into that light pink because that will smudge in there. And this is looking like it's really dark blue. It's just the paper showing through the translucent pencils. When it dries, it won't be that blue. So I switched to a smaller brush, and this is just a generic. I got it at Hobby Lobby. There's not even a name on it. It's not even Hobby Lobby's generic. There's nothing. It's just a silver, it's a number 6 flat. Definitely do not invest a ton of money for paint brushes for colored pencils. It's completely unnecessary. I use that low Cornell brush all the time just because I already had it. You don't need to run out and buy a bunch. So see how I started with the light, and now I will move into the darker colors. But I have to be careful. I can't now take the dark color and smudge over into the light because it will mix together. Not as much as, say, Inktense or watercolor pencils, but it still will mix, so just be aware of that. Get a little bit more paint thinner on that brush. This paper is just, normally that much paint thinner on the brush would have covered this whole section, no problem. But because this paper is just sucking it up, it's making my brush dry out faster than I want it to. So that looks nice and smooth. We're going to let that dry and work on our next petal. This is, I hope wherever you guys are that it's as nice as it is here. It is so pretty out. The birds singing. I've got iced tea. It's like the best day for art ever. This is even early for me to art, and it's still like, doesn't matter because it's just so nice out and, you know, tea. Okay, so the next one, we've got this nice lavendery color. So again, this one is the Manganese Violet. And I'm going to do this whole section here. So I've got a lot of weird lights and darks. We're actually going to pull some orange in there here. Almost any time you ever see me work with magenta colors, I will pull orange. Orange and magenta to me just go hand in hand. Now this photo does have orange in it anyway, but even if it didn't, I can almost guarantee you I would have added it anyway because I always put those colors together. Alex said, so it's not the same like working on Mi-Teintes Touch. I've not used that, so I'm not sure. This one, let me grab the paper. I'll tell you exactly what it says. Oh, hold on. I've got another email. Let me make sure. Yep, it is Patreon. Let me make sure this is. Candace is on the iPad. So if anyone has suggestions for viewing or being able to view the comments or respond on an iPad through YouTube, let me know and I can let her know. Okay, let me grab that paper really quick. So the paper that I'm using is it's just the Mi-Teintes sheets, 490 light blue. You can see the label right there. That's the one that I'm working on right now. And with this paper, the backside, I don't know if it'll show on this camera or not, but the backside is really, like, it's really textured. Then the other side is much, much smoother. But I've not tried any of the other Canson the Mi-Teintes Touch. I'm not sure what the difference is there yet. Okay, so back to playing with the orange. We've got some smudges in here. Gosh, as I look at that tulip, I see so many areas I'm going to go back and add orange to. I'm such a nerd because that really makes me excited. And I don't think normal people get that excited about adding orange to a flower. I'm actually just going to pull this color down a lot farther. Farther than it needs to be, but it's light, so it's not going to be hard for me to darken it back up where I need to. And just remember, abstract shapes. None of this looks like a flower to me right now, and that's totally okay. One of the best things that I've done as an artist, it was a good lesson for me when I was a junior in high school. I was in, well, actually, I wasn't even taking the class. They had to wait. I transferred schools last minute, and they just had an open period, and so I told them I'd go hang out in the art room, and they were like, okay, fine, even though I wasn't getting credit or grades for it, and they'd let me play with whatever art supplies they were doing. So they gave me a project. It was a canvas that was maybe, I'd guess 20 by 20, maybe 18 by 18, something like that. And the project was, it was on just perfect square, and what they gave you, it was all green. It looked almost like camouflage. It was an abstract, but you had to learn to copy it exactly, even though it didn't look like anything. You just copied those abstract shapes. Well, if you did it right, when they put all of the students who worked on that piece together, in my case, it formed a frog. I never would have guessed that by what I was working on. I had no idea what it was going to be. I was like, maybe leaves, or, I mean, I didn't know. But being able to just learn to copy those abstract shapes and how it all comes together at the end is such an important lesson, no matter what you're drawing. We get so caught up in, okay, I'm drawing a horse, so it has to look like a horse beginning to end. Look at your abstract shapes, the lights and the darks. That's going to make it look much, much more realistic if you can kind of get out of your own head of, it needs to look like a horse right now, or in this case, it needs to look like a flower right now. This doesn't look like much of anything right now. See how I just keep moving that pencil back and forth over it, not pushing hard, and it would save time. If I push harder, color is as dark as I need it to be, but I can't layer on top of that much. So keep reminding yourself, don't push too hard. Now, on the flip side, I have seen where students took that to the extreme and didn't push hard enough. So it is possible to not go enough on that. Let's add some purple in here. You definitely still want pigment coming out onto the paper. If nothing is showing up, then you're not pushing hard enough. See all the variation where, you know, a block of purple here, then I'll move up where I switch over to magenta, and I keep switching from one color to the next. That is a really big deal. And it's very easy to look at something and say, okay, It's magenta, just color the whole thing in magenta. That won't look realistic. Look how many colors I'm putting in here. Look how much variation I have from one section to another. Okay. Make sure I'm caught up on comments here. Oh, Fante, I'm not saying that right. Rebecca said that the Mi-Teintes touch is quite different because it's sanded paper. Then, yeah, it's way different. Good to know. I wonder how well that would work for powder blender then. I may have to try some. Probably just going to blend that mess in. Let's get another red. You can't tell I live right next to an airport. Okay. I'm going to let that set. Actually, I may as well blend that now so it has a chance to dry. And I'm going to move on to another petal. Making sure I keep that paint thinner inside the flower and not outside, since I don't want to color the background. And that looks like a muddy mess. We'll let that dry. Put the lid back on my paint thinner. You'll get in the habit if you're not used to doing that, because I know when watching students, they have a tendency to leave it open. They don't think about putting the lid back on. If you keep reminding yourself to, it will become second nature just to put the lid on your paint thinner every single time after you use it. You won't even think about it. You'll just do it. Okay, I'm going to, may as well come on to this guy. So let's start with that lighter kind of lavender color. This guy has so much variation in these petals. Really loving, I mean, the big difference I'm seeing here using the polychromos versus the luminance. The luminance, I get more pigment down faster, being that it's a softer lead, but oh my gosh, do I get the most beautiful sharp edges with those polychromos. So this is, and I think CK Robinson, you are on the iPad, I believe. And just in case anybody is watching this and can't see the chat, she said, if anyone didn't know like me, open the Patreon app, follow that link, the link that comes to this video, and click there. The 3 dots on the top, select desktop, and at the bottom find an arrow up for chat. Okay, yeah, CK Robinson is Candace. Thank you. Oh, good news, too, for those of you who are on Apple or using Apple products. I know that there were the problems we've had with Vimeo. Apparently, Apple, if you update your device, their newest update, whatever it was, fixed it. So hopefully we won't have any more problems with that. So I'm kind of excited when I got the message from Vimeo about that. They just let me know a couple of days ago that the newest, and you may not be able to update just yet. I'm not sure how Apple rolls out their updates, but the newest one is going to fix that problem from what they've said. Hopefully it won't get messed up again then. That seemed like the most ridiculous, like, I can't believe this has been going on since last summer, apparently. The Vimeo app stopped working with Apple. Okay, let's get some of this brighter color in here now. Even though I'm going to darken this up a lot, I'm going to put this one in first. Nope, we're going to need an even darker color. Let's see. We'll put this guy. I think purple would be better. Switching over. See what I mean? It's not a big deal. If you grab a color and you're like, I don't think that was the right choice. Grab another pencil. This one needs to be sharpened though. Wow, that one really needs to be sharpened. So here's another thing. This pencil, you look at it and you go, it's sharp, it's fine. It's not. It's too dull. And so what it's doing, you want sharp enough to be a weapon. If you can't stab someone with it, it is not sharp enough. But you want it with a really fine point, because that fine point is going to get into all those little nooks and crannies of the paper, which is going to minimize that rough, that gritty, grainy look. So I'm just going to go ahead and use this purple. I'm going to need to mix black in there too, or the red. Actually, the red will probably work fine. It's not really red. This is the red violet, so I guess it's sort of red. Yeah, that gave me a really nice dark color. Now as this dries, you can see I'm starting to get that kind of grayish muddy look. More layers will get rid of that. Pushing a little harder on the edge, making it nice and crisp right there. Okay, I'm going to pull this brighter color back over a bunch of this. And orange will have to be put into a lot of this later. Alex said, what do I recommend? When to use watercolor paper, when sanded, and when pastel like this one. Complete personal preference. Now, if I'm using powder blender, sanded paper all the way. So that, just because that only works on non-absorbent paper. But when using anything else, and you can use sanded paper on regular colored pencil. It completely depends on your preference. Here, I wanted a paper that had a tinted background, since I knew I wasn't going to shade it in, and I didn't want to just deal with a white background today. Personal preference. I do like that this has more tooth. I may end up using this paper a bit more than what I have been, because it really is nice to work on. It's very fast. You have to be careful though. Getting rid of that grainy, gritty look can take a little bit more work because it is a rougher texture, but your pigment lays on so fast. You can see how there, I mean, that is seriously pigmented for one time through blending with OMS. So it really is personal preference, and the only way you're going to find out what your preference is to try a lot of different things. But I wouldn't say just try things once. Try things multiple times, because once isn't always the best way for you to get a feel of how much you like or dislike something. Kathy said, do I use OMS over brush and pencil touch-up stuff? You can. It didn't look optimal. You can. It depends on the look you're trying to get. Like anything else, you're going to get different results, but always experiment with it. Like if you didn't like the results you got this time, try it a different way. Try still using it, but doing it a different way. The thing is, over brush and pencil, the touch-up texture titanium white mixture, if that's what you mean, that you want to make sure is completely dry before you do it. With the touch-up stuff, like just the powder blender in general, if you're going to use OMS, you need to make sure that you put the texture fixative spray down first on anything that you've used powder blender, because that powder, if it mixes in with your OMS, if it's not sealed down and you put OMS on top of it, it turns into this nasty paste and it lifts and it makes a horrible mess. So you want to make sure if you're mixing it with powder blender that you've got that touch-up texture, a good layer on that of that, and that it's dried completely before you use anything with OMS. Okay, let's get some more color on there. Actually going to pull this brighter orange in a couple of places. So it's a yellowy orange. Just want to make sure I've got a lot of pigment. I don't even care that it's in the exact right place. I just want to make sure I've got enough pigment on here that when I blend with OMS, it really covers that paper nicely. If you don't have enough paper, you will still have a grainy, gritty look no matter how much OMS you use. And seriously, I'm just grabbing pencils and it's like, oh, let's see what happens when I layer this. Let's see what happens when I layer that. Don't get too worked up about everything being exact or being perfect. Some definite purple in there. We'll go ahead and blend that guy. I probably could put a bit more pigment. Let's go ahead and just grab a reddish color. So I look at that, I'm thinking, I don't know if I have enough. Let's just be safe. If I don't have enough, I'm not ruining anything other than taking more time because I have to let it dry before I put more. So it's not like if you weren't sure if you had enough and you went ahead and blended and realized, oh, I probably should have put more. You're not hurting anything other than your time. You'll just let it dry and layer again. Go ahead and blend this out. I don't have black in this layer at all around this petal, so I really don't have to worry too much about making mud if it smudges into another color. I do need to worry about those edges though. Be really careful. Seriously, sometimes, even though it can save time, leaving your background white or the paper showing through when you're working in colored pencil, even if you're not using OMS, it can create a bit more work for you because you have to be so careful to protect that paper and keep it clean. Alex wants to know what I recommend when to use, oh, I already did that one. Jacqueline said, I can't quite keep up. Will you have this video up for a while? Yeah, absolutely. This link will stay up permanently. I am recording this. I'll see. I may, combine them into, just put the voiceover from what I'm talking to you guys onto this for a second video on Patreon, so you can choose which camera angle I guess you want to watch. But yeah, you will be able to watch this anytime, pause, back up, no problem. I know I tend to work a bit faster than most. The artists, when I first started doing the time-lapse videos, when I was working at this art place with other artists where we would all have to get certain paintings. It was the art party where people brought in wine or drank while I was up on stage teaching them or walking them through a painting. And the other girls who worked there, I would have, 3-4 paintings done in the amount of time they'd have one when we did our sample paintings. And they always joked that my videos aren't actually time-lapse. That's just how fast I paint. And I didn't realize that I worked faster than average. And it is no indication of how good or bad you are either, how fast or slow you work, none at all. But, because they were amazing artists. But it was funny because they always joked about that. I didn't realize I worked that fast. It wasn't that I was trying to rush. That's just the speed that I worked in. So I'm working on this whole other section all together now. What color do I need? I need a deeper purple for this edge. I'll just use this guy for now. I'm going to have to put red on top of it later. Let's get the black for the dark area. Where did that black pencil go? Stacy said, so is the general rule always work from light to dark? Also, what do you do if you want to lighten an area you went too dark? No, it's not always. It depends on what I'm doing. In this case, it's safer. It is always safer with colored pencil to do that. But sometimes it looks better if you do the other way around. It just depends. You've got to experiment. You've got to draw more. There's no definite formula. It's easy to darken stuff up. It's a lot harder to make stuff lighter though. So that's why light to dark is definitely a safe way to go. But again, it depends on what you're doing. Now, if I go too dark, sometimes using my more opaque pencils, so the wax-based pencils, luminance in my case, Prismacolor would work, but the more opaque pencils can lighten things up quite a bit more. Luminant or polychromos, they're too translucent being the oil-based, so those aren't as great for lightening stuff up. but it can be done. The other option, my favorite, is the Touch Up Texture Titanium White from Brush and Pencil. You'll see me use that for highlights here and there. That stuff I absolutely love, because if I go too dark, I don't even have to worry about it anymore. It solved a lot of my complaints or problems with working in colored pencil, where I felt like I couldn't get highlights, like white whiskers. I couldn't get certain highlights, or like if I wanted to do little bubbles on an underwater scene, it's too small in the pencil, the highlights just don't show up as well. That solved a lot of problems for me. Let's see. Ooh, let's sharpen this one. This looks like it'll work out nicely. That's my purplish red. Yep, that's definitely a good color for this. I'm gonna layer that right over the darks. Now, you'll often hear people say never use black. I'd have no problem with it, as long as in most cases you don't want to leave it by itself. Black alone can be a very flat, dead color. That's the big complaint with using black. As long as you're layering other colors with it, it's fine. I use black all the time because I like the results I get. I'm more worried about the results I get than the rules that people set up, but you do typically want to, wow, that plane is loud. You typically do want to layer it with other colors so that it doesn't look dead and flat. I don't think this was the color I meant to use. Maybe it was. Something brighter. Let's pull this guy in. We'll just layer that on top. I want to pull darks further up, so I'm going to use purple for that here. Mostly because it's already in my hand and it'll work. Okay, and let's go ahead and get the darks now here. Pushing a little bit harder because I do want that edge to be crisp. I don't want to go too far up with that. I'm going to layer the purple on top, and then I'm going to layer the purple farther into the pinks. I've got to pull a lot of reds into that too. But it gives me a nice transition. So I've got the black, but I didn't go as far as I want the dark to be. I stopped earlier and then let that transition into purple, and then I'm going to transition that into the reds or brighter magenta color. Then we'll pull some brighter pink in here. If any bit of this I can't get bright enough, I'll just use my Touch Up Texture Titanium White and then go over it. I don't know that I'll need to on this piece, but it's kind of my backup plan in case something doesn't come out right. Layer some pink on top of this one. It's too muted gray. See, it's all experimenting. There's not like, okay, I know this is the color I need, so this is the color I'm going to put in that space. It's always just experiment. It was a little too purple. Let's add some pink on top of it. And too pink, let's add some orange on top of it. It's always just, always experiment. And again, and with any of the videos that I do or anyone else does, because that is something that I hear a lot of people comment about, is that they feel they're too slow. When I do the Q&A videos, that's a common question. People feel like they can't get stuff done fast enough. You're going to speed up with time anyway, the more you do something. But I've never found, I've been teaching for over 20 years, I've never found how fast or slow someone was in their artwork to be an indication of how technically advanced they're going to end up being or how skillful they will be. So don't, oh, I'm missing a whole section on this. It is not time to blend. Don't ever let the speed that you complete something make you feel like that means you're not very good. It has nothing to do with how good your artwork is. I mean, yeah, it's convenient to do stuff quickly, especially with me because I have to get so many videos up. But as far as like being a better artist, nothing to do with the other. Don't ever be discouraged by that. Got some dark edges here. Should actually make these crisper. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and blend that now. I always hate these first layers. They are the least enjoyable for me because once you get beyond this, then it starts coming together. Then things start looking good. But you've got to get these first layers on there and do them, you know, put the amount of time necessary. Don't rush over those. Make sure they're blended nicely, that you've got enough pigment on the paper, that sort of thing. That way, when you go onto your next layers where things start really coming together, it will be, it'll make your life easier. Gosh, that pigment is just blending in so nicely. Alex wants to know if my studio assistants are fine. They are. They're asleep in their crate right now. Where they usually have to be when I live stream. Otherwise, they will not let me get any work done. Okay, let's get this last petal, and then we can go back up to the first one. So I'm going to start again with the black. Just block in where some of these darker areas are going to go. Keep that edge nice and crisp again. Yeah, I may have to take the studio assistants on a walk after this. It is so nice out. Round that off, start getting that shape in there. Diane says her cat wants her to hold him. Not a good time, kitty. Yeah, that's, I used to have a cat years ago. I remember that. Made painting and drawing difficult sometimes. That's actually, my cat was why I ended up using, for those of you who know my supplies for oil and acrylics, I use the Mastersons. It's like a big Tupperware. I had to get that because the cat, if I put the oil paint, like set the palette out and then walked away, the cat would be in it and have paw prints everywhere, and that is not safe for the cat either. So that was a real problem. That's why I got that lid initially, and then it ended up being one of my better purchases. So my cat helped me find, or the cat that I used to have helped me find good art supplies just in trying to prevent her from getting into everything. That's one thing I definitely like with the dogs is that they don't get up into art supplies like the cat did. So I don't have to protect quite as much. And mine are older, so they're not chewing stuff up. As puppies, they both chewed up a couple of paintbrushes, but that was it. Stacy said, do you keep your pencils in the pretty thin lines or do you keep them in a jar-like thing for the quick grab? Or pretty tins. Mine for storage are in these wood boxes. This is one of the drawers that I just pulled out, but they're wood pastel boxes. You can might get the one from Jerry's Artorama. They had the best reviews. The ones on Amazon, people had complained stuck more. The Dick Blick ones, people complained stuck more. These ones have been really nice. And then when I have them out, you can't really see this right now, but I have a TV tray sitting next to me, and they're just, the ones that I'm using are all sitting there or on my easel. I'm just going to put this pink first, and then I'll end up putting lavender probably over, or like a pale lavender type color. Now, here's an important thing. So I need this line to be crisper than what it is. I don't want to try to make it crisp by pushing this light pink over the black. What I'm going to do to make that crisp is when I come back and do that petal, I'm going to take the black and make that edge crisp, because the black is going to be more opaque, or it's going to cover the light better than the light can cover the dark. So I don't want to try to keep pushing this out. It's not going to work very well if I try to go over here. Like you can see it, I'm scribbling over here and you don't really see much. So what I want to do when I come through with the black, that really dark color, I'm going to pull that in this way in order to make that line crisp. Go ahead and get that lavender color now. Let's go ahead and lighten some of this up. Actually, where's that pro color? Using one pro color that I really liked. This one will be better, that heather color. Get a few areas along here for the highlights that this will be a good pencil for. I'm just scribbling this, and this can be pretty messy. Do I blend the OMS from light to dark? Yes, usually, because I don't want to, when I go on with the OMS, I don't want the dark to get into the light. So I generally will go light to dark. So this I'm going to be messy and just fill the rest in with this color. Again, just working in ovals. And I turn the pencil as I work. This will help keep my tip a little bit sharper. Just keep readjusting. If you go too much in one direction without turning and twisting, you'll get really dull on one edge very, very fast. This side definitely has more purple than this magenta color. So I'll have to come back through with purple on top of it. See, I'm layering it right into the black. This pencil is definitely getting dull enough now. See that point? That should be sharpened. I'm just being lazy. But if I want to create the best possible work I can, that should be sharpened. Okay, let's pull some of the purples in now. Since a really light purple, and too light. Let's go with a darker purple. To find the right purple. Let's try this guy. This is the blue violet. Yeah, that looks like a good color for this. Again, I want to focus on getting my darks dark enough, my lights light enough. It matters so much more than the color that I use. But variation too. Don't try to think that, oh, I just need the right purple. I just need to know what. I think that's the problem that people get into where they want to know the color so badly, is that you think if I just knew the right color, that's going to make the work look realistic. And it's not. What's going to make the work look realistic is getting your darks dark enough and your lights light enough. You're not likely going to show people the reference photo you used. It doesn't need to be exact. It'll still look really pretty and really realistic if you can get that contrast, your values, the way that they should be. Got this dark bit in here. So you're starting to see where the lights and darks are going to be on this flower, but it's still not realistic. I mean, it still looks like well, it's a hot mess right now. We'll get there. Okay, just working this over in a few areas. Especially that black. I don't want to leave that straight black. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and blend that out. If I can find my paintbrush. If I would put things in the same place twice, it'd be way easier to find stuff. Now here, I don't have to be as careful with my edges because I'm up against more flower petals. Like nothing's touching those outer edges of the paper, so I'm not too worried about it. Again, starting with the light and then work my way down into the black. Now before I start, because I've got to do the other half of this petal, I can't just jump straight into the light then, because I would smudge the black that I just got on here. The black and the dark purples would smudge right into it. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and dip that back in my paint thinner. Your paint thinner is a brush cleaner. That will clean it off, and then dry it again on the paper towel and back onto the light areas. Remember, this, it looks like it's super dark. It is not going to stay that dark. And while this dries, I'm going to take a really, really quick break because I have had too much tea today. Hi, too much information. But if you guys want to take a break too, I don't know, 2 minutes, I will be right back. We're going to let that set for just a minute. And yeah, I'll be right back. Okay, now I am back, and now I can have more tea. Diane says, I'm not convinced my hot mess is going to come together yet. It will. It definitely will. And here's another thing I do want to point out. This color on the live stream to me looks darker than what mine looks like in person. On the live stream version, the way that it smudges colors together, it also looks more like it was done in oil pastels or in paint than mine. Mine looks a little bit rougher than what you're seeing there. So if yours looks kind of rough too, that's okay. That's normal. That's why I've got to figure out how to get this other camera to work better for this, because you'll be able to see a little bit better what it is. Yeah, that's Gump said, said, I actually love the way it looks now. Mine doesn't look that good when it's done. Well, mine doesn't either, because this isn't really what I think this looks like, unfortunately. This is overly blended, overly saturated on with this webcam. So, I just want you guys to be aware. Don't feel like, oh, mine doesn't look exactly like that. Neither does mine, honestly. It's the webcam. It's definitely blending things a little bit better. It's close, but not exact. So let's go ahead now and we can start getting the darks in here. Let's really darken that up. And more tea. This is a mixture. I've had a bunch of people asking about the tea that I drank last time, or a couple live streams ago. This one, it's 2 of green tea and 1 of a blueberry tea. Oh my gosh, it's the best combination ever. So good. It's stash green tea, or green and blueberry tea. So good. Okay, so I'm starting with black again, but again, I will layer color back on top of this. I'm not going to leave this flat black. Actually, let's see if, I wonder if the Derwent Pro Color Black. Let's see which one I like better right now. No, I like the Polychromos Black better for this. That was just a bit more muted. And this still is not going to be nearly dark enough. I'll have to do at least one more layer later on to really darken it up, maybe even two. You should always remember, it's not a paint by number. It's a layering process to get this look. But don't fall into that temptation or let it hit you where you really just, I'm just going to push hard to make it darker. It won't look as good. You won't have as much control if you burnish that paper. We don't want to flatten that out. Just can add a couple more layers with that. Now I'm basically repeating the same thing that I already did with pretty much the same colors I used the first layer through. So I'm back to that luminance. What color is this? The purplish red. Was there another color I was using that was bright with them? Maybe not. I never remember the names of any of these pencils. I'm going to go over the black a lot right along the edge before I switch into purple. Yeah, may as well use this for one more layer up here. And now I'm going to pull this color. We will use the Delft Blue, which is just purple. Actually, I think I need to do red and blue. I think to get this darker, I'm going to switch over to a deep blue. Do I want to use luminance, or let me see what color this is. Prussian blue. I don't know if that's going to work for me. I think I'm going to go with my polychromos on this. Let's experiment. I'm going to use my dark red and could use dark indigo, but I think I've got my Hilo Blue reddish. I'm going to play with all three of these. I'm going to sharpen the pencil again first. I can tell the last time I used this was with powder blender because I've got texture fixative spray is all over the edge of the pencil. So I'm going to put the blue down over the black. If I leave it just black, it's just never going to be as deep or dark enough, which you would think it's black. That's as dark as it goes, but it'll actually look like a richer black if I mix my blue and my reds together. So this one is the Hilo Blue reddish. Now I'm going to mix my dark red over that. And again, you don't have to use the exact same colors. Experiment with what you've got. And I'm going to layer this red into the petal a bit too, or into the light part of the petal, because it's all the petal that I'm working on. This is a little too red. I'm going to go back on top of it again with the blue. More red than what I really wanted. Actually, let's try the dark indigo on top of that. Yeah, that color actually is working really well for the areas I needed to darken up. But I need to use both the blue and the red to really get that depth that I want. Burnt Carmine, that might work. Which one is that again? Let me see. That's middle cadmium. Oh, I don't know which one it is. There, Burnt Carmine. Burnt Carmine is, it could work. It's a little on the pink, the kind of pastel or more muted side of things. It's okay. But you could definitely make that work. It's not going to be as rich. I think a deeper red. I actually may even go one step further with No, I don't have a deeper red on that. There we go, this red. Now I'm definitely getting to a point where I can go ahead and blend that out. There's a lot of pigment on that paper right now. My Verna said, I'm using Prismacolor. It's all I had. Never tried the other brands before. The Prismacolor, you really have to watch that you don't push too hard because you're only going to get so many layers. They're very, very waxy. They blend beautifully. So Prismacolors aren't all bad. Don't, like, I mean, I always make fun of them and joke about the breakage and all that. But you can get beautiful, beautiful results with them. There's no reason not to use them other than light fast issues on some of those pencils. But you can do a lot with that. The big thing you're going to fight is your wax bloom. If you're blending with odorless mineral spirits, that will get rid of some of the bloom. It picks up some of that wax or remove some of it, so that helps a lot. But if not, you're just going to have to watch the way you layer. Lay said, have I lost my mind or recall you once saying that you've used vodka to get paint out of clothes? Yes, and it works beautifully. I have a video showing you how to do it, but you just add that. Hold on, let me get rid of this really quick. You just add, let the vodka go on the clothing. Now, test it first. I don't want to guarantee it won't ever ruin any clothing, but if it's already got paint on it, what difference does it make at that point? But you soak it on there and then take like a toothbrush, rub it in, and I made the mistake once. It didn't work as well using vodka straight out of the freezer. I've got some that's always just sitting in there, and definitely room temperature works better, but let it set, scrub that in there, and then wash it, and it comes out really, really nicely. I've also used tequila for that because the first time somebody told me that, and I was teaching a class. Somebody had told me years before, and I had never had a cause to really try it. But I was teaching a class, and I went home and saw that one of the students had turned like this, and she had red paintbrush. I had all across my chest this big red mark. So I used to wear that shirt all the time, and definitely didn't have money to replace it. So I tried the tequila. I had that was sitting on top of my fridge forever. So I dug that out. Dustiest bottle ever. But it worked. It worked really well. Totally saved the top. So we're going to go ahead and blend this again. You'd never know that I had this huge smudge of red acrylic paint. Like acrylic paint on its own, I had always just assumed, clothes are ruined. I mean, that acrylic paint does not come out. But yeah, the alcohol, well, vodka or tequila are the two I've tried, work really well. Vodka would be better because it's clear. But the tequila didn't hurt the shirt that I used it on. Now, look how nice and dark. That is so, so dark. It'll lighten up a little bit when the paint thinner dries, but that is going to look perfect. I mean, when I say perfect, I still may go over it a bit more, but now we're getting somewhere. But this is nice. This black is not a dull grayish color that you would get if you use straight black. So let's go ahead and move on to the next. If I had to choose a brand of pencil, what would I pick? Depends on what I was doing, honestly. Performance-wise, the Derwent Pro Color are honestly probably my favorite because it's somewhere in between wax and oil. It's like you get the best of both worlds in one pencil. Problem is, almost half of them aren't light fast. So I've got, with the Derwent Pro Color, this is how many I have. Well, two of them are pulled out that are light fast, but this is basically what I have of the Derwent Pro Color. There's not a lot of colors there that are light fast. The ones, most of the really nice colors, these are the ones of Derwent Pro Color that are not light fast. All the bright colors, they're not light fast. So I don't know how well you can see that, but these are the ones that are not light fast of the Derwent Pro Color. And it sucks because they're gorgeous colors, but I wouldn't use them in my artwork that I was going to sell. Like something with Inktense, sure, but not with that. So, or with something like this. So, like I said, it depends. Does light fast matter to you? Are you selling your work? If you are, then you're not going to probably want to use that. You would only want the light fast colors. The polychromos do almost everything that I want them to, and what they don't, Luminance does. So Luminance and polychromos together are my go-to two brands. And if it was an issue of like I can only afford to get one set, I would get some of each set. Like get a lot of the tan, the cream color. There's certain, it depends on what you're doing. But I would get them individually. Just go ahead and pick out the colors that you want from each set that are more important to you, because they work beautifully. Yeah, Maureen said, talking about the vodka, and it takes paint off and we drink it. Yeah, it doesn't seem like the smartest way to go, does it? It's kind of like Coke and Pepsi and sodas and stuff. The stuff that they use to clean, it's like, that's terrifying. So again, putting the black down. I'll go ahead and do a few petals here at the same time. See, I'm starting to focus a little bit more, making sure my edges are clean, even cleaner than they were before. So I'm going to work on this section here now. Now we'll add some of the reds and blues. This one's actually a deeper purple. That's giving me a nice color. See what I mean? My intent was blue. I grabbed purple. I'll use it. I don't care. I mean, it's not that big of a difference. The color to me just doesn't matter nearly as much as your values. If I use a color and I'm like, wow, it didn't work, just layer over it. No big deal. Like, I totally get why people worry about that and want to make sure they're using the right color. But if you really want to progress, you have to I don't want to say totally forget about it, but let that concept go that the color matters as much as it does. And it's a hard thing to unteach our brains. I mean, I get it. You think I just need the right color in the right place. I remember thinking that, and it didn't. Over the years, I learned that wasn't the thing that was making my work not look realistic. It was all the other factors, my blending, my shading, my contrast, my values. Those are what mattered. So I'm going to define this edge. I'm pushing a bit harder here because I do want this edge to be really sharp. Pull that out just a bit. And let's see. I'm not sure if I want to go with the bright pink. Yeah, the bright pink looks like it'll work well. So we'll layer that on top there. And this will go right along that edge, that same pink. I did push a little bit harder with the pencil there because I know I'm not going to do a lot of layering on top. No, this is not the pencil I want. See what I mean? Wrong pencil. Oh, no, I don't care. Put it down and grab a different one if it's not the color you wanted. Yeah, Maureen said I gave up the Pepsi but not the vodka. Right there with you. Yeah, I gave up soda. I drink the Lachri stuff now. It's just the bubbly water. Those are pretty good. But yeah, I gave up soda completely about a year ago. And I tried. It was after one of my surgeries. It was like, okay, I'm rewarding myself. I'm going to have, it was a clearly Canadian or a New York seltzer, one or the other. Yeah, it must have been a New York seltzer. I don't think you can get clearly Canadian anymore. But I remember I had always loved those. And the first drink I took out of it, oh my gosh, it was just like syrupy sugar. I was so not used to it that I haven't had the desire for more since. So I'm actually glad that I decided to cheat that day after not having it for so long, because that killed any desire I had to drink it again. You definitely get used to not having that much syrupy sugar. I remembered them tasting clean. I didn't remember them tasting that like, oh my gosh, I'm drinking straight syrup. Darken this a little bit more with this deeper red. Really want this to be a brighter kind of purple in there. Let's see what will happen. Let's take a lighter color, lighten it up, and then I'm going to put my magenta type color. Actually, this blending with what's underneath just solved that problem because this is opaque enough. It brightened up where I wanted it. I do think I want a little bit more color in there. So I want to take that brighter, where did it go? And I lost it. There we go. Let's lightly go over that and let those blend together. Yeah, that actually did what I was hoping, or what I wanted to accomplish there. Okay, so this here needs to be more of a burgundy. Let's take the red. This is the dark red. I'm just going to go over this whole back section and over the purple. Just let those blend together. I am starting to push a little bit harder now, because I'm getting to that point where I'm not going to have a lot of layering to do on that section, so I can be a little bit safer to push harder. Oh no, this one's okay. Use a little orange. I actually don't like how that looks. Let's go back to the pink. I think I need to lighten it up. So let's actually put the pink, and then I'll try to lighten it with that light lavendery color. Lavendery. See, I just make up names. Actually, this one should work out okay. That's the Heather from the Derwent Pro color. Yep, that actually works good. I do think I'm going to need some white here, though. Let's see what happens. CK Robinson asked if I have an affiliate store on Amazon other than listed in the description, looking to order a smaller set of luminance. Well, okay, so the way that I do, but I just got it, the associates program. They have a different program, then it's not just the affiliate, it's you have your own page with all the stuff you recommend. I started putting it together. It's not even close to being finished. I have so many supplies to add to it. But if you click on any of my links in the description, you don't have to buy the item in the description for me to get credit. If you click on one of those links and then you buy a vacuum cleaner, I get a cut of that. I get a percentage of that. Like, it doesn't matter what you buy as long as you clicked the link and then went shopping on Amazon. I get a little bit of a portion of that. So, but yeah, I do have to, the affiliate store is something that I just got this week and started working on, but it's, ooh, that looks nice. Oh my gosh, Derwent Drawing Chinese White is the best pencil. But yeah, I just started adding items to it. So what I'm doing right now, I'm letting the white blend in with the pink and it lightens up that pink. Ooh, this pencil looks good, and it is sticking to this paper so nice. Oh my gosh. That is far better results than I expected to get right just there. See, the Amazon affiliate program's pretty cool, the way that they work it. And thank you for asking. I appreciate that consideration. Okay, that needs to be more purple though. So let's just grab this purple and see what happens. Oh, I don't know which purple I want to go with to lighten this. Oh, yes, this color is actually better. And we'll kind of smudge and blend those together. I do need to darken this up. I'm already starting to like this. Okay, I can go ahead and blend that. And where's my brush? I may not even need to add more paint thinner. There may be enough still from the last time I blended. Yep, it's still wet enough. I don't even have to dip it back in the container. What I do have to watch though, see how I just went into the black there? I need to dab that off onto a paper towel to remove as much of that as possible before I go into this light area here. Oh, that blended nice. I need to get bigger sheets of the Canson Mi-Teintes. I'm sure you can get bigger ones, but it is just such... Every time I use it, I'm reminded, oh my gosh, it's so nice to work on, and then I forget about it until the next time I pull it out. The only reason I did it is because I wanted a blue background, or this light blue background. But it just holds so much pigment. Seriously, Stash blueberry tea. Man, is that good. Not sure how healthy it is, but it's tasty. So right now, I just really want to get this pigment a lot darker. We saw how well that Derwent Drawing Chinese White stood out here. I know I can pull any highlights I want to lighten stuff up at this point. As long as I don't burnish that paper, it's going to stick really nice. So now I don't like to work the pencil, and I know I've heard of people doing this, but I don't like to take the pencil and go over a wet area when that paper's still wet. Some people say, well, the pencil sticks to it much better. Yeah, but you're damaging the crap out of that paper. So you're not going to get additional like it causes a lot of problems. I just have never really liked that result. Dan said, am I using too much OMS if I see streaky marks rather than smooth blends? Okay, so yes, kind of, but it's also normal. So the first layers, I'll use more OMS than the final layers. The final layers, when I've got a lot of pigment on that paper, I want to use less and less and less OMS. Otherwise, I just create streaks instead of softening things out. So you've got to experiment with that. But if you're getting too many streaks, then yes, too much OMS. Jacqueline said, I used Canson Mi-Teintes when white and pan pastel it blue, then sprayed it with the brush and pencil spray, and it works well. Interesting. Huh. That is interesting. Yeah, I tried the first time I used Powder Blender. I tried just spraying a bunch of my texture fixative on top of my Fabriano Artistico. And I forget who suggested, I don't know if Aliona at one point has suggested, somebody at some point suggested that that would work and you could just use your regular paper. Yeah, no, it didn't work at all. That definitely did not work for me. Going to start pulling blues, but I don't think I need them just yet. I don't even know if I need this guy yet. Let's get some purple on that black and just darken this up a lot. I need to thin that line out. Pull some of that purple here. I really want this to fade into the shadows. Start getting some of this orange back in here too. So pretty. Now look how bright and bold that orange looks now. What a difference. But the first layer, the orange hardly showed up. It looked terrible. But just keep layering until it looks how you want it to look. Line can be thinned way out. I just want a little edge there. This pencil should be sharpened, but I'm lazy. That should be good for that section. Where did my paintbrush go? Ooh, black on that one. I didn't clean the brush, so I need to clean that first. I mean, I'll be able to cover it, but I definitely was smudging a bit of black there. I've done that a few times where it actually was a big deal. So you want to get in the habit of testing that brush. I'm going to clean it in between before I go into the blue or the orange, because that bluish purple color would have made that into absolute mud. It'll lighten up. Now it's mud just because the blue paper of the background showing through, but when it dries, it'll be fine. But I've done that before where I wasn't careful and I ended up with a big dark smudge somewhere that needed to stay light. And it's like, I could always see it. I was able to cover it enough that the viewer doesn't know, but I could always see it. And so just be careful to wash that brush off in between uses. Okay. So I'm going to do a bunch of these petals all at once. Just go ahead and layer them just to move along a bit faster. But when you're working on yours, it is a good idea. If you're not comfortable doing that or you feel a little overwhelmed, work one petal at a time. I'm just going to go ahead and jump around a bit, because I want to spend a lot of time getting those details. And just, I didn't put a time on the live stream. It'll probably end up being 3 hours. It'll probably be another hour or so before I finish this. So this one is not the typical 2 hour where I cut it off before I finish. We'll finish this today. Or I'll finish the project anyway in the video, no matter how long it takes. Gonna pull that nice magenta. I really like this magenta. It's a little bit more of a pink red color than the purple that I really would want for this section of the flower, but it's still bold. It's still pretty vivid, and so it still works for me. A lot of that purple on top of the black here. I'm going to switch. This one is my red violet. Let's get some of these darker reds in here. Oh, this is a good color for this. Actually, I'm going to push a little, I'm going to sharpen this and push a little bit harder along that edge. Really make it more crisp. So I'm pushing harder here. Really want that to stand out from here, and I'll have to lighten some of that up in order to make this exactly what I want. Now, as I get in here, I don't want to push as hard. It's just really along that edge that I'm going a little bit harder on that. I'm going to get some more of a purple right along here. Now there are sketchy lines on the tulip, the petal here, so I'm just making sure that I move that pencil in that direction. I want to make this edge nice and clean too, so let's push a little bit harder. And I'm pulling that shadow up because I want this edge to be a little bit lighter. So this dark that I'm putting here, I'm pulling in the direction of that petal above. Let's see. Laverna said, this is not relevant, but I love all your different glasses I've seen in your videos. Do you know what brands they are? I have such a hard time finding glasses that I like. Thank you. Okay, so the videos that you've seen before, they were from VisionWorks, which I do not recommend going to that place. It's like McDonald's of trying to eat healthy. They were horrible. The prescription, the way that they did them, they never felt comfortable. I liked how they looked, but they scratched within the first week, first of all, which is, I've never had glasses scratch before because I'm super careful with them. Within the first week, one of the pairs scratched, and then they never felt, I should have taken them back, but I didn't have time at the time. And I'm like, no, I just need to adjust. But like, I'd put them on, and every time I'd put on the glass, it was like, whoa, that doesn't feel right. Like that feeling happened every single time. So those are what you've most, like for the last couple of years, you've seen me wear, or a year and a half. I don't know, maybe not a full 2 years. And then this time I went to a place, I'm trying to think the place I went to. I did some research and found out that VisionWorks is actually really bad. They're known for being bad about screwing up prescriptions and stuff. So I went to like an actual eye doctor place, like a privately owned, not a big chain basically. And these ones are Fossil, I believe, and then my sunglasses are Juicy. And the funny thing is, these are name brand, and it cost me less than the generic crap that I got at VisionWorks. I didn't save any money. Now I know your insurance, depending on what that is, will affect that. But for my insurance, getting the name brand and from a place that made glasses, like they were better than like these ones I've had for a couple of months now. These are perfect. So that's kind of a funny little thing. Do some research. Another one, Costco, and I don't have a membership to Costco, so I couldn't go there, but Costco's got the reputation for having the best, as far as getting the glasses accurate and everything made well. Costco's supposed to be one of the best, but that wasn't an option for me because I don't have room to store that much food, so I don't have a membership with them. But yeah, the name brand for these ones are Fossil, and then my sunglasses, I don't think you guys have seen the sunglasses. Those ones are Juicy. It was just funny to me that getting the name brands work, because one of the problems that I had, most of the places that you get glasses now are I used to always go to Target, but I don't like any of them they have, because right now it's in style to have the ones that like cover half your face. That is not flattering for my face. That does not work for me. I like the smaller. It hides, I have really bad dark circles under my eyes. Like since I was 4, I've always had them. So these kind of hide them nicely. And those big, huge cover half your face glasses just do not hide that. So yeah, the smaller ones, I had to go searching for somewhere that still had this type of glasses, which was kind of hard to find. I had to look at a bunch of different places before I found some. And these are men's glasses. The women's glasses were all too big, even at the place that I went to. I ended up having to go with men's to get the shape size that I wanted. Oops. Yeah, and I don't know with Costco, I don't know what the glasses they have there look like. I just know that from the research that I did, they have like the best reputation. Right under them is going to a private location like I did, like an actual eye doctor, as far as getting the glasses made well. But as far as styles, I have no idea. I know that the women's just, they didn't have anything that I liked anywhere I looked. I was going to leave and one of their employees came to help me and had me try on some of the men's. Sure enough, that's what I needed. I've never been a fan of going for stuff that just because it's trendy. I like to go with what works best for your body style or your face shape or whatever. So the trendy stuff, I hate when some of this stuff gets popular and you can't find the stuff that you actually want. Anyway, enough talk about glasses. Sorry, I'm sure I'm boring most of you guys. So see how I'm getting streaks, but I've got to make sure that they're going in the right direction. And this petal is probably the most complicated as far as the change and shift in color all over the place. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but I do want to use that reference as a guideline. For me, with the reference, and especially on something like a floral, I am not married to it. Like, I don't have to stick strictly to every line, every shadow, every color. I'm using it just as a guideline. Or, you know, if I'm doing a portrait, then the lines I have to be exact, but even that I can change colors as needed. Let's start pulling some of this bright orange. See how that orange now, that was really dull and scary looking when I blended out because it made the pigment more translucent, so the paper was showing through. In the paper, when you put the odorless mineral spirits on it, it makes it super dark. But once it dries, it's fine. But it looks scary when you first blend it out because it looks like, oh my gosh, you just ruined it. But it's okay. Now I'll end up putting more orange than what that reference photo requires just because orange and magenta are two wonderful, wonderful colors together. And this one is cadmium orange. It's a very, very light, almost yellowy orange. Morning, Jackie. So let's get some of these highlights back in there. And actually, it's not that my highlights aren't light enough. And it would be one thing. If you're looking at the reference photo right here, you could look at that and go, well, the highlight needs to be brighter. Really, it doesn't. It's that my darks need to be way darker. So that's actually what I should start focusing more on. Let's pull a deeper red. Start getting some of these really dark areas. And I'm overlapping that on top of some of the purple. Lights, darks, we're just going to put this all over the place. See, as that blends into the orange, it's such a pretty transition. We'll do the same here. I apologize. I've got to stop scratching. I have 5 spider bites all on my arm and shoulder. They're like driving me insane. So I keep trying to remind myself to stop scratching but I keep doing it. I don't know why you guys needed to know that. I just have no filter. If I think it, I say it. Okay. What do I want to do next on this? I definitely need to darken this bottom section up a lot. So let's pull some purples. Actually, maybe I'll pull some blue and red into that too. That needs to be way darker. Ooh, the blue's going all on its own is making it nice and dark. Be careful with blue and orange next to each other, though, because blue and orange are complementary, so when they mix together, you get this muddy brown color. And that is usually not a super pretty color, so I want to be careful where I put this blue. I need it for darkening things up, but gotta watch that when I get too close to the orange. I have to be careful when I blend that with the OMS. But look, that's definitely darkening it up really nicely. And it's blending really nice into that red. This petal is such a good example. Abstract shapes. It doesn't look, it's like, what? None of that makes sense. But it will when it all comes together. Actually, I think I want to pull some of this brighter magenta. Let's sharpen this pencil a bit. Oh, cool. Lee said she did, or he, actually, I'm not sure if that's male or female. Sorry. Did your fireflies in the evening forest acrylic. Most fun I've had in a while. That was a fun painting. I need to do more of that. I actually have some ideas for different fireflies that I want to paint. They give everything such, like, almost like this magical feel. I love that. I want to do more of those. I want to do more with like whales or dolphins, sharks, something swimming through forest and then with the fireflies. I have so many ideas for paintings I want to do. I need more time in the day. Or I could stop playing Warcraft. That might help. Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and blend those petals. Actually, yeah, I'll blend those and then do that guy separate. I change my mind constantly. I'm always trying to think, what is the better way to do this? Is it better if I like in this case, should I blend now? Should I wait? I'm always weighing those options. Remember, as an artist, you are a problem solver. There's no one right or wrong way to do things. You have to experiment and figure out what's going to work best for what it is you're trying to accomplish. So here I do have to, you can see I'm creating a lot of streaks. I've got to be really careful because I've already got so much pigment on the paper now. Now I need less. Less and less OMS on that brush with each additional layer. So I did the light area, we'll blend into the dark. Of course, this is going to look way darker than it will when it dries. So I'm finding myself dipping the brush into the paint thinner more than I need as far as paint thinner goes, but because I need to clean off the black before I go into the light areas. Okay, that edge is a mess. Let's go ahead and go over that again. Oops, my monitor just went to sleep. There we go. So see, that orange is really muddy, but when it dries, as long as I didn't blend too much blue into it, it should go back to being a more rich orange again. So I'll come down here to these lighter areas, and then I'll go ahead and blend in that purpley blue color. Careful of those edges. Now I'm moving this brush because I am going to create some streaks. I'm moving the brush in the direction that I want those streaks to go for that flower. They don't have to be exact to the reference photo, but they do need to go in the right direction. Okay, so we can let that set now and go on to the next petal. Okay, let's see. I'm going to start pulling a little bit of orange in this guy. Not too much. I'm going to map out where that's going to go. A little bit in there. And that's that yellowy orange, that really bright one. Okay, now I'm definitely going to need black. Really need to start darkening some of this up. It's so important not to push too hard here, given how dark I need it to go. I'm going to need a lot of other colors on top of it. Now, I'll often talk about don't push too hard because you can't do as many layers. There are artists who work entirely, their entire piece is done through burnishing. So it is a technique that is okay if that's what you want. The reason that I'm stressing don't push too hard, for the way that I work, the way that I layer, it wouldn't work. But you can experiment with that. I mean, when I first started with colored pencils, that's how I did everything, was burnished. It was really hard. I have arthritis in this hand and wrist, and that it really was causing me a lot of pain, so I couldn't continue working that way. Once I found the OMS, that's when I realized not only is it faster and I don't have to beat up my hand doing it, but you need to work in the light layers for this to work well. But burnishing, I always talk about don't burnish. It is a method that there are really amazing artists who use that technique. You just have to figure out what's going to work best for you. Some of those streaks going in that direction there. Let's go ahead and get some of these reds in now. And again, if you're just joining, I'm not cutting the live stream off at straight 2 hours like I normally do. I'm going to finish this project today. If that means I'm here another 2 hours, then I'll be here another 2 hours. It'll probably only take another hour, but this is not, I'm not only going to be here for the 2 like usual. Starting to get much darker now. Now I'm going to take that really nice bright magenta color. I'm going to go over all of this, and I'm going to layer this into the dark, into the light. It's going to go over everything. My pencil's not super sharp. I'm being a bit messier, but for being that I have so much pigment on the paper, I can get away with that. A lot of what I need to do will be done on the next layer from here. I can pull a bit of highlighting in now. Am I a Diablo 3 fan? No, not really. I definitely am more of a World of Warcraft. I like to collect pets and mounts. It's not really something you do with Diablo. A lot of my friends are really into that game, though. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and leave that alone and blend that out. I didn't have to reload my brush. I had enough paint thinner from the last petal. So see how I'm blending that light area first. And I'm being careful to pull this down and not into the black up there. I don't want to smudge that direction. Now I feel like at this stage, this is where I'm going to, from here on out, start making things look way better. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and put the base for the green stem now. Deborah Scott said, can you talk about when you could or would use watercolor for an underpainting? You can use it at any point. It just depends on the look that you're trying to get. Remember, when you put a watercolor coat down, you don't have the white of the pencil to bright up the colored pencil later. So that can be a negative. It's something that you definitely need to really prepare or plan out your artwork so that you're aware of where you need to leave super bright. Now, if you're using the touch-up texture titanium white like I do, then you don't even have to worry about that. You can... If you go too dark somewhere with the watercolor and you need to lighten it up for the colored pencil, then you've got that solution. Let's see. You know what? This looks like it could be blended a little bit better. As that dries, I'm seeing a little bit more of a rough look than what I really wanted in a couple of these areas. Just go back over that since I'm going to let all of this dry anyway before I work on it. So, onto the green stem. Ooh, this looks like a nice, I've got a couple of good base colors. I'm using my luminance more than I thought I would today. These are super, these should be pretty bright. So, let me sharpen these. I'm going to be using the, what is this one? Spring green and olive yellow for my base, and then I'll put darker greens on top of both of these. Have I ever considered teaching using digital painting like with Procreate? Not Procreate. I use Photoshop when I do digital painting, and that is something that I'll have some tutorials on eventually. I've got the Wacom tablet. I've got to do another demonstration with the my Samsung tablet, or Samsung Galaxy S3. I don't know, I mess up the numbers all the time. I think that's what mine is. But I will be doing more with that eventually. I just haven't done it yet. But I do want to do some more digital painting. And with that, I'll use Art Rage. That is bright. Let's see, this one's a bit more dull. We'll put this over. It doesn't show up that much. It does tone it down a bit though. Let's grab an olive green or something along those lines. That'll work. This one is moss green. Again, I don't really care if it's the perfect color. I just want to get my values right. Let's see, what do I want now? There's a brighter green in along this edge. Let's throw a little bit of that on there. It's not using the right color as much either as getting variation. Everything has so many, I mean, you'd look at that and go, okay, it's a yellowy green stem. I'm just going to do a yellow green. It won't look realistic unless you get all of these. I just used 4 shades of green to get that in there. And I'm actually going to pull this reddish orange. What color is this actually? Whatever, crimson. We know I can't pronounce things. I'm going to layer that into the green a little bit because it's going to give me even more of a brown tone because of red and green being complementary. And that should be good. I'm going to have to clean this brush because I know it's going to be dirty with black. I don't want that on that light green. Oh yeah, that was really dirty. So clean that off. And this is what I do. I'm using Viva paper towel, and you can see how much of the pigment I've gotten off the brush as I've worked today. So it's so important to clean that in between different colors like this. Ooh, I was not clean on that edge. I'm using the brush at the wrong angle, and that definitely created a fuzzy look there. I may have to thicken up the stem just to smooth out that edge. We'll have to see. Once it dries, we'll take a look. Plus, if you wanted to do a blurry background for this, would you use masking medium where the flower would go? Oh, dear God, no. Well, okay. Depends on, first, masking medium or like the Frisket would be fine, not on top of the flower when it's done. I wouldn't put anything sticky on top of this because when you remove it, it will pull most of the color. It would completely ruin the flower that I had done. So I have 2 options. Well, if I'm going to do everything in colored pencil, I don't need to worry about that. I would just work around the flower. Whether I drew the flower first or not, it wouldn't matter to me. You can just, shade it in however you want. Now, if you're going to do it with an airbrush, then I would use Frisket, which is low tack. But even then, that's going to pull some of the pigment off here. You'll have to do some touch-up work back on top of the flower later. So if I was going to do a blurry background with this paper, I would go with Frisket. I would not use masking fluid. I don't think they're going to play nice together. I haven't tried it, but usually masking fluid on paper like this is a bit too harsh. I've not liked the results I've had on other papers that were similar anyway. But the Frisket, which you can just cut out the piece, you can do that, but I would do that first if I were airbrushing it. But if it's just straight colored pencil and on everything, you don't need to mask anything out. You just have to be careful around your edges. Let's see. Okay, this should be about good enough that we can start getting those, like really focusing on our values in contrast now. I actually think I may even try to go a little bit darker there. Let's get some more red and blue. I'm going to mix what is this one? Prussian blue and crimson elves or whatever hue that I can't say. Seriously, Karen Dosh, you charge enough for your pencils. Label them better. I can't read this. Oh, that's going to be nice. Okay, I need to sharpen the pencil first, though. Paula said, so you can do the background last. Yeah, if you are using colored pencil, you can. If you're using airbrush, I would have done that first so that I could mask it out. Because like I said, if I put Frisket on this, it's going to pull off all that hard work I did. Not all of it, but enough of it that it would make a difference. But if you're doing it all in colored pencil, yeah, that's one of the things that's so nice with colored pencil. You can work on any area you want. I could work up here, then jump over here, anywhere. It doesn't matter. With like acrylic painting, oil painting, you have kind of an order that you want to follow, or a general order as far as what layers go where and what areas you work on. But with colored pencils, you've definitely got a bit more freedom, I think. This is the Canson Mi-Teintes paper in light blue, Jackie. So I really want that edge nice and clean now. It's kind of jagged. So I'll get those little marks in there. Pushing a little bit harder where I really want that clean edge. Let's switch over to the blue. See how nice and dark that looks? I am starting to push a little bit harder with these pencils now as I get to these last layers. No, this is not sanded paper. This is just, yeah, the Canson Mi-Teintes. Okay, I also really need to start working on brightening some of this up, getting the color more rich. Where is the pencil I'm looking for? This color may work pretty well. This is the light purple pink by Faber-Castell. See how bright this is. No, Paula, with the working on the background first, the reason that I do that usually is that way I can be messy. Like if I get a line accidentally on my flower when I'm doing the background, it's no big deal because I haven't done the flower yet. But now I would have to be really careful when I did my background not to accidentally get some of that onto the flower. That's the only difference. Let's see, this may not hold it sideways. That's actually working better for me there. Yeah, kind of like that color. I'm not sure how in love I am with it. Yeah, it's okay. Let's come back to this guy though. Let's clean up that edge. So here I am burnishing. I'm pushing a bit harder. I just want that really crisp, bold, clean edge. It's not really going to blend much. I'm just going to pull that down into what's already there. I'm going to do the same thing up here. Clean up that edge. So see how I'm pulling it out over the blue a little bit, over the background. Let's get a lighter color. Jackie wants to know what I think of this paper. I actually like it a lot. I don't know why I don't use it more. I like how the pigment sticks. That's not opaque enough. I like how the pigment sticks to it. Oh, there we go. The Derwent drawing. So nice. Oh, that looks good. Let's get a little bit of highlighting in here where I want it lighter than this side. Actually, I want to darken this up with a bit more red. Let's pull that in there. I'm gonna let that pull down into the black. Let's go ahead and blend that. Now, I do not want much paint thinner on the brush at this point because I have so much pigment on the paper that if I use, oh, I do have to get it wet though because I had yellow on it. But if I use much paint thinner at this point, I'm just going to create streaks. It's just going to move the pigment around too much and it makes it really hard. So I want to dry lots of that off on the brush as much as possible. Just go a little bit over here. Now this will probably be the last time for this layer that I blend with OMS. Any additional work I do on this petal, I don't think I'll need to blend out with OMS. I think it's smooth enough after this. I'll probably do a little bit more work detailing and edges and stuff, but I won't need to blend it this way. Yeah, that came out really nice, really dark. Was the red down first before blue intentional for blending? You can go either way. They'll both give you slightly different results, which one you put on top of each other. For me, I'm just building up to dark, so it really didn't, I was going to get about the same result either way. It would not have been that noticeable, basically, if I had done red versus blue in this case, or the other way around. Okay. Start really darkening some of this stuff up. Because that's pretty much my problem at this point. It's not so much that my whites, I have some areas that need to be lightened, but for the most part, I need to get my darks dark enough so that the lights appear light enough. Otherwise, it doesn't matter how light my lights go, they'll never seem light enough because my darks aren't dark enough. And going dark enough, it's scary. That is a normal, that fear you feel like, oh, I don't want to mess it up. That is normal. But I would rather see somebody new mess something up from going too dark than continuously never going dark enough. You're not going to learn, like you have to be brave and make the mistake. Sometimes maybe it was too dark, but that's how you're going to learn. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. They are such an important part in learning. Don't, like when you first get started, don't expect everything you do to be perfect. And I get that. We want everything to be good, but you're never going to get there if you can't get over the fear of something not looking perfect. Let's get some red mixed into this. And I actually have to start darkening this area up a lot. I guess I can put black first. Some of this. I'm even catching myself there. I'm pushing too hard. That being that I know I want to layer on top of that, I shouldn't push that hard. Okay, let's get some of that blue and red again. Now, with any of your wax-based pencils, so in this case, this is the Caran d'Ache, I feel like I can get more layers with an oil-based pencil, so like the Polychromos, before it starts not wanting to take more. When you get the wax buildup, and that is minimized a lot when you're using the OMS, but when you get the wax buildup, that alone, even if you're keeping a light hand, so especially you're going to see that more with Prismacolor, for example, that is going to create more of a challenge for you. There's a bird that, or a set of birds that lives out here. We're right up against a kind of like a nature thing that, so we get a lot of different birds, but we get some of them. I've seen them before. They're little, but they sound like a dog squeaky toy. It just squeak, 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 squeak. And it starts at about 3:30 in the morning. It'll go till like 6 or 7. I'm still awake, so I think it's adorable. I'm sure my neighbors don't think it's so cute. It is the funniest sound that these little birds will make out there. I love listening to them. We definitely get more in this area, like way more fun sounds with birds than we did when I lived in California. We had crows, basically, in California. Here we've got a lot of really neat bird sounds that you get to listen to. I don't know if you guys are able to hear the birds through the mic, if it's picking those up, but they sound so cute out there. Okay, let's get some blue. Really darken some of this. over this as this is starting to dry. I won't likely blend it with OMS at this point, but I do want to make that a bit richer. I can see as it's drying, it's giving me a little, it's muting it a bit. Okay. That nice crisp edge, so I'm pushing harder. That pencil has to be sharp for that. Keep those edges clean. Yeah, grump. I keep saying grump. Gump. That problem that you're having with, you said one of your main problems is not putting enough layers. That is a problem everyone has. Like, that is a normal, trust me, you are not alone in that. But when you can get to where you're doing more and more and more layers, just building and then building more and then building more, it makes such a difference in your artwork. Basically, as a general rule for me, when I think I'm done with something, I'm going to put it away, be done with it for now, come back, whether it be half an hour later or the next day, and then come and put another hour, at least an hour into it. Acrylics, I don't have to put as long into it because it's faster, but with colored pencils, minimum another hour. Once at the point I think I'm done, knowing I'm going to come back and do another hour at that point. That's why you always see that I've signed my work before I'm actually finished, because I will almost always go back and make adjustments. It really, you will see so much more, and you will see such a big difference in your artwork if you can start doing that. Start really forcing yourself to spend that extra time. More layers. Pull this around the edge too. Now I don't want this to just be an outline, so I've got to pay attention. Like here, I've got this bright pink, which is not bright enough, so I'll have to use white. Then I can put white or the pink back on top of it. Actually, even just with the white looks good there. Let's see, where else do I want to darken next? And there went my reference photo, just timed out again. Okay. I lost my black pencil. There it is. See how it's sketchy? And I'm just, again, going in the right direction where I'm doing sketches versus the ovals, like sketches, straight lines. So here, I actually pulled this dark in too far. Let's see if I can lighten it up a bit. This is the Faber-Castell, their ink eraser. Yep, that lightened it up really nicely. I don't want to push hard. I don't want to sit and scrub and scrub and scrub because you can damage the tooth of the paper too much, but that did lighten it up just enough that now I'll be able to go back over it with the pink. If I went just pink on top of the black, it wouldn't have shown up. Readjust that edge there. Now, I'm definitely getting to the point because I've sat here for so long that I'm starting to kind of like not pay too much attention, getting lazy. I recommend get up. Do not sit more than an hour between getting up, walking around, take a decent break. Like don't, sitting too long right now, like, yeah, I definitely can see where I'm like missing stuff and I'll come back. I'm like, how did I miss that? How did I make that mistake? But that'll start happening more if you sit for too long. So see there, I did the blue first and then the red on top. It's similar once I mix it with the OMS. If I do the red on top of the blue, the red will be stronger than the blue is, if that makes sense. Stacey said I had to quit as my pencil sharpener would not work for these pencils. As soon as this is over, I'm heading out to get a nice pencil sharpener. I use a whole bunch. I have a huge variety. Coom pencil sharpeners are my main handhelds that I use, and they work for all of the pencils that I have. I did get a pencil sharpener recently. Was it one from Smart Art Box? There was something, or no, it was actually one of my metal ones. I did have a small one over here that wasn't working with my luminance, and it was one of the first ones, which is weird because I have several by that same brand, and one version of that, I don't know what happened with the mold, but it was way too small. That's frustrating. Get lots of sharpeners. I do recommend having lots on hand as well. You see I keep picking up different ones, but it's always good to have lots on hand because it's really annoying when one goes dull while you're working on a project and you don't have time to go get a new one. Or if like you want to keep painting that night. So this actually needs to get to be a much brighter magenta. So we'll just layer that right on top. And then here, I'm much more purple, so I don't have the red underneath it. I can just go with that magenta alone. So see how this one is more of a warm red on this side, and as I go over here, it's more purpley? I'll probably mix purple in with that too, but I don't want to mix the red over here since this needs to be a much cooler color. Which purple do I want to use for that? Let's try you. This one is the Purple Violet. It doesn't really show up that well. Nah, that's not working too well. Don't need you. You can go back in your house. Okay. Actually, that's pretty close all on its own there. Let's start getting some more pink in here. Really need to darken up more. Let's sharpen this first. So using this darker red, I want to come along the edge of this, really deepen this up. I am adding more pressure now because I don't have to worry about adding a bunch of layers on top of this at this point. So if I think that darker color burnishing at this stage, I will usually burnish at the end of my paintings. But if burnishing works on those last stages, go for it. Do not burnish too early on though, or you limit yourself. Okay, so I just noticed something that I missed all along. I need a highlight in here that I don't have at all. So the easiest way for me to do that, I'm gonna try to lift some of this. This paper actually erases really well anyway, or more so than most do. Wow, that erased really well. So just that little bit of a highlight, and then I'm going to put that magenta. I want magenta or red? No, I want actually more red. Maybe both. I still want the dark, dark edge, so we'll use the black right along that. Pull that right on through. That's better. Jackie wants to know if I'll do more artist hangouts like I did with Sheldine in the future. Probably, yeah, definitely. Sheldine's so fun to talk with anyway. So I know her and I want to do more. I'm glad you guys liked that though, because we definitely had fun. Okay, so this one needs a lot of work. I need to darken up so much now. Now, as I start to darken everything else, you really start noticing other areas need to be dark. Like I get one area dark enough and it makes another area that I thought was mostly finished. It's kind of, it really stands out that another area will need more work. That's why I start jumping around a lot more as I get going. Clean that edge up really well there. Okay, let's darken some stuff up. I'm probably going to jump straight to purple first. Does erasing ruin the paper? It can if you do it too much. If you push too much and you just scrub and scrub and scrub, like you continuously try to fix the same mistake. So let's say you were drawing a nose. You drew it out, you had it all shaded, and you're like, oh, it's the wrong shape. I need to erase the whole thing, you know, a big thing of it, and I'm going to redraw it. And you redraw it, and then you're like, oh, it's still wrong. I'm going to erase the whole thing and then redraw it. And you keep repeating that. Every time you do it, you're causing more and more damage to that paper. So I don't recommend going overboard with that. But in a case like this where I just used it a little bit, it's no big deal. Like it didn't hurt anything. I need a different purple. Let's see if... this one might... See, this is where the luminance... Yeah, their purples are too grayish. The purple. I don't think that's going to work. That's too muted and gray. So I was kind of... Oh, this one's actually pretty purple. Let's see. It's okay. It's more opaque, so it's showing up better. But this is why I was so surprised when I found that magenta early on. I'm like, I didn't remember there being one that bright, because most of the purples and pinks and stuff with the luminance tend to be a bit more muted. They're not as bold and vibrant. But this is a pretty nice pencil here. What is that? Not that I can read it. Purplish red. One of the things that's really fun about a project like this too, as simple as it is, not worrying about the background and such, you get that instant gratification. It's done right away, and it's like, hey, I did that today. I accomplished something today. I can see the whole finished thing. Stacey said, so you're not in California anymore? No, I'm not. I'm in Texas, North Texas. I like it here much better than California. People, traffic, everything here is really... big improvement from where I lived before. It's safer. I think that's the bigger thing from where I lived before. Like, I like being able to walk outside without an escort. Makes me happy. Yeah, that's not as dark as I want. Let's switch back to my blue on some of this. None of this really needs to be blended with, well, actually, I take that back. There are a couple spots I do want to blend with OMS. Actually, I'm going to blend that now because that'll be the last time I think that I blend any of these other ones. So let's go ahead and do just a bit. Because I still have a bit more of that grainy, gritty look than I really want. And you really can't see that. I hate that about this webcam, is that you really can't see that well enough. But know that it is a little bit, like now it's perfectly smooth, but it definitely from beginning to end on what you guys are seeing looks smoother than what I'm seeing. Now these are all perfectly smooth, but they did before have too much texture showing. Or let's see. I'm just about ready to start putting some of these highlights on, which is going to make a huge difference in this one. That's my favorite part, when I get to start playing with that. Make sure that edge is clean. Oh, good. Where it got fuzzy, you can't really see on the stem. So actually, I'm going to smudge what little's on the brush. See how I have that purple? I'm going to let that smudge into the green. So I'm almost painting a shadow with that. And then when that dries, I'm going to put my bright greens on top of parts of that. So we're going to let that set for a minute. Jackie says, the only thing I know about Texas is from the Western movies. Where I'm at isn't much different than California, other than it lower crime rates. It's definitely safer. But other than that, like everything else, it looks the same. You don't have a lot of people here with an accent. Every once in a while, I'll come across someone who has a Southern accent, but it's fair. It's no more often here than what I have found in California. So it's really not it's not what you would expect from seeing on TV and in the movies. Yes, this is the only thing I know is Fixer Upper and Waco. That's not that far from me. I'm north more. Wyverna said, I've never been that far south. I'm in Canada. You guys have way colder weather than I do. I have Christine Kyron, I can't say her name. She's up in Canada. She's the one, she's provided us several reference photos that we've used on Patreon. She takes, her photos are amazing. She's the sweetest person. But she is up there and she sends me photos. Oh my gosh, the weather and the cold and the snow that you guys get, I don't think I could, I think I would die. I don't think I would live. You are a stronger person than me. Let's see. This one's probably okay. I just want to let this sit because basically all I have left at this point are just those final details, getting those highlights and those edges, which is going to make a huge difference. But I need to let this sit for just a minute. And I want to do these live streams with you guys with different mediums, but a start to finish project. I think it'd be fun if I could manage to do them like once a month. So hopefully we'll have more of these. If you guys want to let me know what medium you would like to see this in next, let me know. It has to be something, whatever I do, it has to be something it's small that I can finish in 2 to 3 hours. Well, 3 hours probably. But I definitely want to start doing more of these with you. And hopefully with a better I've got to figure out how to get this camera set up so that it's giving you better, I want you to see more accurately what I'm seeing. I may regret sharpening this Derwent Drawing Chinese White any sharper. This is too sharp of a point, you can see, for a Derwent Drawing Chinese White. This is a very brittle lead, more so I would even say than Prismacolor. It's not breaking because of bad construction. It breaks it's brittle. That is the nature of this pencil. And so ideally, I would sharpen it to maybe about there if you've got a sharpener that will sharpen, I call them the golf pencil sharp, where it's at a stronger angle than what I've got here. This is too long and sharp, I would say. Watercolor live stream, I can watercolor pencil, yeah, absolutely. Okay, we'll do that next. Gum said I would worry about hurricanes. I'm in Illinois, so all I have to worry about are tornadoes. Well, we get tornadoes too. Hurricanes, I mean, in the Dallas area, that's not something that we really see here. We did have flooding like crazy a few years ago. I mean, it didn't really affect me or where I was at, but there were areas around here that had a lot of damage, like Grapevine Lake or Lake Grapevine. I don't know which way it's worded. They had some serious damage, and their water. I mean, it's crazy. You can see the damage like up way higher, how far that came up, and it damaged a lot of structures over there. But yeah, tornadoes are something, we're on the low end of it, so it's not as common in this area as it is a little bit more north of us, but it's still, that's the main thing, tornadoes and hail that we would get. Wyverna said, what is the benefit of using watercolor pencils opposed to just straight watercolor? Okay, so I want to say I was never really a fan of watercolor until I used the watercolor pencils, but maybe my taste just changed over time, so I don't know. That is possible. But the pencils, I feel like you have more control. It's easier to determine where that color is going and be a little bit less messy. I think that's the easiest way for me to describe what I felt the difference was. But I've not done enough with watercolor that I can give you, somebody who is more experienced with watercolor may give you a different answer that might be more accurate than mine. So it's just, I'm looking back at years and years ago when I had done watercolor. I never felt like I had enough control with them. So that with the watercolor pencils, I don't feel that way. I feel like I've got full control. But again, we're talking about a difference of maybe 15 years. So obviously I'm going to have more control. I'm more experienced in art in general. So there is that. But I definitely felt with the pencils, I just had so much more control than I ever remember having with playing watercolor. Also, to be fair, I was using cheap water, like the cheapest you could find of watercolors. So I never gave them as big of a chance as I did most other mediums, just because what little I experienced with them, I wasn't a huge fan of, but that may be different now. Okay, so this should be dry enough. I can start putting some highlights. And these highlights are going to be a bit more white than what you probably would want. I could go on top of it with pink, but I think I'm going to leave a lot of these with white just because I like... Yeah, maybe I'll go with pink on top. Get some lines in there. So I'm working that pencil in the direction that the lines on that flower petal would be. See how I'm curving them. These are not, very important to point out, not straight lines. Straight is not natural. Straight is too stiff. So I'm curving that. Have I ever thought about doing a craftsy class? Do you mean like somebody else's, following along with someone else's, or making my own craftsy class? Because it's like copying someone else's tutorial. I've considered it. Maybe. I don't know. I don't follow tutorials, honestly. I've never really done much with that. But doing it myself, no, I have no interest, because the way that it's done and the way that you make money doing it makes no sense for me to have to, like, it's a lot of work. It's so much prep work. There's so much involved in it. And to me, the payout it doesn't make sense. You have to pay them. They've got a weird structure on how you pay. Like, they fly you out to where they record the class, and then they record it, and all the money for your hotel stay, for the flight, for the camera crew, everything, they are taking out of your income from the class. Like, you pay them back for having that class done. So I think it's really good for someone who doesn't know how to make videos on their own. It absolutely makes sense to me. But the money that you make back, that all has to be paid before you start making any income off the class itself. And they usually have sales where you're only getting like $5 for somebody buying that course. It just doesn't really makes sense with what I already have going, because I can do it for myself. And it takes a lot of time. I mean, the prep work to do one of those, I've known of artists who did it, and the prep work, you have to have samples of every stage in between on that project. So you have to redo the project, like, I don't know, 5 to 10 times, because you have to have all of these stages along the way. And it doesn't sound like fun or very practical, considering what I already do. I feel like I can reach more people doing what I'm currently doing. But that's just going off the handful of people I've known of who did it. It didn't seem like it was worth the amount of work they had to put into getting it, and then of promoting it. And that would also, for me, if I had to promote it, I would be in direct competition with myself with Patreon. So that, again, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Brittany said, I love a small powder blender. I think it would help see in real time. Yeah, that would be good too. I think that's a good idea. We'll do one of those. So see these little highlights, and it just makes such a difference in this. And they're a little too white. They're not as pink. I can go on top of it with pink if I want, but it really looks nice. Like, it makes such a difference now. The contrast is that much stronger. And this is definitely where I start moving a little bit away, well, more so than before, that reference photo, just based on what I think will make my piece look better. Oops, pushed too hard, broke the tip. Yeah, I think the Craftsy platform is cool, but it's especially cool for artists who don't know how to make their own videos, I think. And Gem says, I got to get some of those white pencils. You do. I actually recommend get the full set of Derwent Drawing. It's only 24. They're more muted colors, but they're all so opaque. They're definitely a must-have in my, since I've used them more, in my list. But the white, at least get the white. But the whole set, I do recommend. Like this show, and it's showing up a little bit more than normal on this paper because this paper does have a bit more tooth. So I should be fair with them on that. Like if I was working on Fabriano, it wouldn't show up this well. I keep wondering then, why do I keep using Fabriano then? This paper is actually pretty wonderful for my techniques. I really do like it. I need to see if I can get it in bigger sheets. I'm not sure how well it would handle airbrushing when I do those backgrounds though. Definitely need to sharpen this. Not that I need more of a point basically. I have to be careful not to push too hard as I go through here. Cece said, I was just curious, personally like the way you have your set your classes up. They reach a lot of people, also way more affordable to get one type of class. Yeah, definitely. I like this platform better, but I understand where a lot of artists don't know how to make their own videos. And so if they want to have videos available for people, then Craftsy is a great way to go. So I don't mean to like bash it or say that it's bad and no one should do it. It just depends on what your situation is and what you know how to do. Like, what can you do on your own? I'm a big fan of doing as much on my own as possible. Well, part by necessity, because I couldn't afford to have stuff done before, but you know, have somebody take photos of my artwork, for example. I had to learn how to do it myself, or build a website. I had to learn to do that myself because I couldn't afford back in the late 90s. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely and there's some cool classes on Craftsy. It's also weird because some of their courses are like super sped up, so it's like a 5-minute class or a 10-minute class. But the work that went into making that one video was so much. Like yeah, it's definitely not practical for me. Okay, let's start pulling some of these oranges in again. See how now I can go on top of the white, and that orange is super, super bright. That white being there first lightens it up enough, and that's something that I do all the time with Touch of Texture titanium white. And the only reason I'm not today is because this white pencil is doing it for me, so I get to be a bit lazier. But see how now I can get my light pink. When I tried to put this pink before on top of the color that was there before, it was not showing up. But putting it with the white or over the white, it mixes in a bit, and it lets it be a bit more opaque and stand out more. So I'm going to do the same up here where I want a little bit more pink. Let's add the white, blend that in, and then I can take my pink on top, and it'll stand out way better than if I just try to put the pink in that area. Do the same up here. Actually, I think I'm going to put more white here so that I can pull more pink than what I originally planned on. Got this highlight that's right in the middle, and see how it fades out. So with the brightest part, right as that line comes down, I'm going to let that fade in this way. And I'm going to put the pink on top of those little wisps that are going through. Pull a little bit more. So you can still see the lines, but they're muted now. But that pink on its own, if I just put the pink here, you wouldn't have seen it at all. Putting the white first lets that show up. Definitely have a few more edges to clean up where I'm really messy. There we go. This is the stage where you want to go around those edges and get everything nice and clean. We don't want fuzzy edges where they shouldn't be fuzzy. That's a big deal. That will make a huge, huge difference in the end result. Okay, and I said earlier I wanted to pull a few highlighted greens on top of this, so let's just let that blend in. I don't even need to blend. I'm okay with that being a little bit more rough. I think I want to pull some brighter oranges to make it pop a little bit more on this magenta. Not because that's what's on my reference photo, just because I think it'll look cool. Let's experiment. You don't have to if you don't want to, but let's see. Ooh. I'm going to use my Caran d'Ache oranges because they're going to be more opaque. So I've got 3 different colors from light, medium, my gosh, and dark. And again, this isn't because it's in the photo, it's just because I think it'll make mine look nicer to pull some of these oranges. I love orange and magenta together. Go with a darker orange on this one. Go right along that edge and let it fade up. Oh, look at that. It gives it almost a glow. That is what I'm looking for. Oh, I love that look. Let's pull that on the back end of this so it's not super bright, just that hint. Definitely want more in this guy. And this guy still, I feel like I never got some of the darks as dark as I could have gone, but okay, I'm going to go with a lighter one so it stands out a bit more. This might be too light. Yeah, that's too light. Let's go with the medium. That's better. Where else do I want to put this? Maybe a little bit more here. Oops, there we go. I love the contrast and how it makes the magenta parts feel so much brighter. I may come back through. Let's see if I can brighten up a few more of these with magentas. I mean, I'm basically done at this point. It's just kind of messing around with little things. This is where I would say go take a break, come back and see if there's other things that you want to adjust on yours. But I'll just add a few more pink bits here and there. You know what I would like too? I want to take a little bit of a light blue. Just pulling all my pencils out and throwing them down. I want to see how much of a mess I can make for myself to clean up later. I think a little bit, let's pull all of these out. I'm not sure which one I'm going to want. I've got all warm to cool blues here. Let's see if one of these, ooh, there we go. That one, oh, that's nice. Okay, so this blue is genuine coral cobalt blue. And oh, that is a nice touch on this. I am liking that a lot. Careful putting that over the orange. That didn't look good. I think part is with this blue paper. It's pulling that background into my subject. So that's probably why it looks so good. I'm just going to need this one. Put those other ones away. White Verna said, so if I use the white Prismacolor to blend all the colors together, is that the desired effect? Well, if you want everything pastel and light, then yes. The problem is if you use white on everything for blending, everything gets lighter. So that's not usually what you want to do. What you want to get, if you want to use a pencil to blend, get a colorless blender. Prismacolor makes one. And you can use that to burnish, but that would be what you want to use. Now be aware, when you do that for blending, you're not going to get much more on top of it because it really does flatten the tooth of the paper. But I don't know if I've got any over here. It does work quite well. There are a few. Let me see. I've got... Okay, so I've got, this one is the Luminance. It's the Luminance version of that. And let me show you, like here, I can push, see how this area, well, I don't know if you can on that camera, but I can smooth stuff out. And I usually will only, if I'm going to use this, I'm only going to use it at the end because it's burnishing. I'm damaging the tooth of the paper. But look at how it'll blend. It is colorless, so I can smooth that out. So that is an option for you. But with Prismacolor, the Prismacolor Colorless Blender is the one that I would go with. So this is definitely where I'm really not paying attention at all to the reference photo. I'm just deciding, where would this color look nice? Where would it make mine look better? And when you have that feeling, you're like, well, I don't know where it would look better. You're only going to find that out when you experiment, when you are willing to make a mistake, potentially, in order to make, learn something new. I really didn't expect to like this blue as much. I just wanted to see what would happen. And it is just giving it such a better tone. Yeah, and this is the stage. Anything on here, I am pushing a lot harder. I'm definitely burnishing stuff at this point because I know I'm not going to go back over some of that. Ooh, that looked good. Every once in a while, a line will come out dark and it's like, ooh, that's what I wanted there. That looks amazing, like so much better. Seriously, I can't believe what a difference this blue pencil is making in making this look better. And this is something I do a lot with animals too. When I'm doing, I could be a tiger. Try the blue, try the magenta, try some of these colors and see if that's going to work out better. Because that additional color, even though it's not in my reference photo anywhere, it's making my piece look better. And that's the important thing. That's what you have people will ask you all the time. Well, what's the point? Why not just take a photo? What's the point of photorealism? Because I'm going to take that photo and I'm going to make it better. I want to improve on that photo. That is my end goal. Now, that doesn't mean that sometimes I won't just try to copy, like I've got a flamingo up there. I copied that photo, the reference photo, almost exactly. So the other people who copied it almost exactly, all our work looks the same. Good luck figuring out whose is whose. Most of the time I don't do that though. Most of the time I'm taking that reference photo and making changes, whether it be the background, my contrast, my color. Here, I've added orange and blue that was not really in that photo, but I think it made such an improvement on this. The whole piece to me looks a lot better. So when somebody asks you that, well, what's the point? Why not take a photo? Just tell them, because you're making it better than the photo. You're not trying to copy the photo exactly. And you'll have times too, like I had a client who came to me, she wanted a pet portrait done of her Italian Greyhound. She had this photo. The photo was beautiful. The lighting, the angle, it was amazing. It was out of focus. So she brought this photo to me and was like, can you make this? She wanted it to be in focus. She wanted it perfect. It was one of my better portraits. The photo was good. It was what I needed to see, but the detail, like, you know, I had to pull that into focus. It wasn't something she could print big, and that's what she wanted. So if I hadn't copied things, if I didn't know how to copy a reference photo and make it look realistic, I wouldn't be able to do that. So there are so many reasons that we do photorealism. And you'll hear people too, while I'm on my rant, because I'm pretty much done. One of the things that you're going to hear people say as well is, don't work from photo because your work is going to be flat. Bull. That is not true. You, as an artist who works from a reference photo, has to learn to make things look three-dimensional. That's what we're doing. I have so much work. Most of it, some of them I look at, I'm like, okay, it's kind of flat, but not because of the reference photo. That's just because of how I painted it. I could see how to make the adjustments. Learning where to put your shadows, where to put your highlights. You can learn to make things just as three-dimensional, just as realistic as working from life. I absolutely do not believe that. Now, I think it's good to work from life and from reference photo, but you are, when you work on your, from a reference photo, you have to learn, you develop the skill to be able to make it look three-dimensional. Now, maybe the artists who are used to working from life, and this is probably the case, most of them who are used to working from life aren't able to get that dimension because when they work from photo, because they haven't trained their brain to look that way. Your brain has to process working from reference photo very, very differently than it does working from life. One, I don't think is better than the other. I just don't believe it. I have made work and I've seen work done with reference photos that look like I'm looking at, like I'm there, I'm looking into it. It's not even a painting or a photo. It's I'm in person seeing this thing. So you're going to see a lot of people try to tell you, oh, it's not going to be as realistic. It's because something that they heard from some elitist artist. Same thing as don't use erasers, don't use this. You know what? You can set rules for yourself. You can set boundaries for yourself if that's what makes you happy. But it doesn't necessarily make it true for you. Like I said, when it comes to working from reference photo, you're going to learn how to get the depth. And it's not at first. When you first start working from reference photo, yeah, it's going to look flat. That's normal. And the more you paint, the more you draw, the more depth you're going to learn how to incorporate into that and how to adjust your shadows, adjust your highlights, adjust things in order to make it not look flat, in order to make it look like something you're looking from life. But I mean, I've seen plenty of artists who only work from life and their stuff is nowhere near as realistic as mine. I've seen other artists who work only from reference photo and it's nowhere near as good as someone with working from life. It depends on the artist. It depends on the skills that you develop. There's no one right or wrong way with anything. Don't let somebody discourage you with any of that. I get so sick of seeing that where people are like, oh, you can't do it this way. You can't do it that way, or this won't happen. And it's almost always not true. It may be true for them, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be true for the next artist. Let's see. Is my red panda... I did an Inktense on Patreon. I can't seem to find it. I think so. Here, hold on. Let me pull up my video list. I think it's there. I'm trying to think when I did that. It should be. Let me find out for you really quickly. I might just have, oops, that's not what I wanted. I might just not have it on my video list, or it might not have had the voiceover, which is definitely a possibility, but I think I did that when I did have the voiceover. Let me scroll down to Inktense. Yeah, it's there. It's an hour and 13 minutes. So if you go over to my video library, so this one, lachri.com/video or Patreon-video, what is it? -list. it's on there, or just, I forget what it is. If you go to any of my recent Patreon videos, I've been giving you guys that link, or a link that should work. But yeah, it is there. But use that list. That'll help you out a lot. So I think we are done. We've been at it for 3 hours and my stomach is growling. I am ready for lunch. Actually, I can turn this off. I'm going to post a photo of what this looks like because I think it's a little bit darker, oversaturated in the video. Actually, it looks better on the video than it does in person, but I don't want to lie to you guys, so I want you to see what this actually looks like. I'll get a good, decent photo of this in the next day or two and get this posted. Oh, whoa, why did I push that button? Get this posted over on Patreon for you so you can see what my finished piece actually looked like, and that'll give you a better representation. It's pretty close. I think some of the saturation is a little bit deeper on that than mine. But that is it for today, and we'll probably, wow, I can't speak. Probably be doing watercolor pencil, since that was the most request I had there, on the next time. So probably I'm thinking once a month I'd like to do these with you guys. So I will see you then. Thanks for joining, and yeah, I think that's it. Bye.